Welcome to the King Leo Show, everybody. I am your host, King Leo. Here we are with an emergency stream. How's everyone doing tonight? See here, let me make sure the audio is working properly. Let's make sure we get this all correct. As you can see, we're here for a very special Venezuela war episode. Are we good here? Let me see here. Welcome to the King Leo Show, everybody. Yeah, we are good. We are good. All right. So, I guess the only issue here is that, of course, it's a green screen behind us, so we can't really get the hat in. This is a Soviet hat. This is an OG Venezuelan Fuerzas Armadas Nacionales Bolivarianas. Sorry, we're just getting sorted out. Dude, this emergency stream is bro, I was up late last night, man. My parents were as well. We were all calling and texting each other because of these attacks in Venezuela. And this is a fascinating time to be alive, man. It's a fascinating time to be alive. Let's see. We have to get through a lot. You'll pardon my tiredness because it's not easy, man. I was up until 4:15, and this was. Let me just get this notification out of the way. All right. Listen. I was up until 4:15, and at 4:30 they had actually caught Maduro. Let's take this off and look at this, how it blends into the background. All right, we are here in the. But anyway, to get to the point, why we're here today, it seems that the Venezuela issue, which we have covered significantly on this show, partially out of personal interest, because I'm half Venezuelan myself. And it's a country that I care about. I find it to be very interesting. Last night, there was a special military operation, for lack of a better word, where the American government, with the help of the CIA most likely, as well as the Army, and possibly some Colombian involvement. I don't know if it was direct or not. How you doing, William? Yes, I am half Venezuelan. Yes, sir. They went into Venezuela and were able to basically bomb. I had an uncle and a cousin who were next to where they bombed in Caracas. They had multiple locations, but they were pretty close to the main fort, which is called Fuerte Tiuna, where Maduro was holed up before. We're not exactly clear on everything yet, but they felt the bomb blast, dude. They were feeling the bomb blast. It was pretty wild. We were calling them and talking to them. It was a scary time. It was a scary time for them, but this morning things cleared up. It seems that Maduro has been, what would you call this? Is this extraordinary rendition or just like kidnap? It's an interesting thing. He just landed in New York, and it's pretty wild. As someone who's an analyst, and I'm very cynical on the Venezuela question, I find this to be pretty fascinating. Went out there, I got myself a cigar. We're here, we're smoking on that Maduro fit pack. Had to do the costume. We have to be here in the actual. This is what they wear over there, dude. You can get this for cheap a few years ago. This is a Chinese uniform. Maduro's here. He's in the U.S., dude. He's gonna be tried. What's happening? It's very confusing because, and we're gonna get through everything, but the United States did this limited operation where they blew up. Well, they weren't really going into why they were blowing up the specific places they were targeting in the news media here. But given that my family knows pretty well, I was talking to my uncle, and they hit where Venezuela keeps most of its missiles, which is in La Guaira. They hit a couple military bases, a drone factory in Margarita. They were hitting every viable target. Yet what I was really confused about, they also hit the tomb of Hugo Chavez. I guess that's just sort of a fuck you. But the main thing is that they got Maduro. They got him. They kidnapped him or extraordinary renditioned him out of the country. And it's a fascinating time because it's kind of like a half measure Noriega, because you did everything you had to do to basically knock out everyone in the country and kill all the upper command, because most people, obviously Americans, are not aware. Venezuela is commanded by a couple of people. Maduro's he's not a figurehead, but he's one person with power. The other ones are Diosdado Cabello and the other one is Vladimir Padrino, who is the military charge. And I would have thought, hey, man, you're going to get all of them, right? So that you can have an actual regime change. But in typical Trump fashion, we got a half measure, which is Maduro's gone. The official vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, who is the daughter of a former leftist terrorist who was murdered in prison in Venezuela in the democratic period, like my grandfather was a communist over there. We are now in a very weird situation where Donald Trump is indicating that he wants to work with Enrique Kissinger, Marco Rubio, the greatest to ever do it, Marquito. I mean, dude, undeniable that this is the Henry Kissinger of our time. And a lot of people hate him, a lot of people love him, but we're just analyzing here. He wants to work with the vice president who is ascending to the presidency. He has cut out Maria Corina Machado, who was supposed to be the president. She won on the ballot with Edmundo Gonzalez. She was supposed to be the president of Venezuela after Maduro. I've never been a big fan of her. But he said today that he's not a huge fan, that he doesn't really love her, that she's not loved by her people, which is inarguably true. Inarguably true. My parents, who are very, very anti-communist, myself, I'm an analyst, dude. I don't really take things too seriously. They're not huge fans of her either. So we're in this weird, complicated situation where it reminds me a lot of Noriega. It also reminds me of the coup in '54 in Guatemala, which was against Jacobo Arbenz, where America used psychological operations to exile this man out of the country and hand it over to certain interests like the United Fruit Company. And the under-discussed coup in Venezuela in 1958, which no one talks about because it was a coup against what some people term a fascist dictator, Marcos Pérez Jiménez. And if you try to research this coup, it is the weirdest coup in Latin American history because they say that the people spontaneously rose up and they took him down after a 10-year dictatorship where economic prosperity was pretty big. So it's like all three of these at a half measure. So I'm just confused as to why this was the way that Trump did it. If you talk to someone, my parents, they are pretty moderate because they've never liked these guys from the beginning, and they were telling me that they think that these guys will end up eating each other over the next 48 hours, and not sure about that. But it's a great time to be alive, great time to watch stuff, man. Listen, I'll be honest with you, dude. I know a lot of people are like, oh, American imperialism, and a lot of people are saying, oh, national sovereignty. Listen, I'm just here to try to make some money. If they take these guys out, you're going to see me like a Russian oligarch, okay? I have the language. I have the connections. That's what I'm trying to do, all right? So we're going to get into all of this today. Fascinating stuff. Let's catch up with the chat and get into it. How you doing, Spring? Larry Johnson on Glenn Deason's show believes attacks on Venezuela is a prep for war in Iran. If Gulf of Hormuz is closed, then we'll get oil from Venezuela. Spring, the only reason I disagree with you there, even though, of course, these two are related, and I will say, by the way, because it goes to our first meme, because we're going to start with the memes. Did I tell you literally this week that Maduro, despite all of the theater, once Benjamin Netanyahu had said, hey, Venezuela is dangerous to the interests of Israel and the United States, that was it, because Netanyahu's the guy calling the shots. Some people say that is like a anti-Semitic thing. Some people say that it's reductive, but I'm just saying Benjamin Netanyahu is a undisputed genius. He's a guy who knows how to play politics. And I said it on here, man. I said, if Netanyahu wants him gone, don't be surprised if you see him gone. We said that literally this week. That's why we're the best analysis channel on YouTube. Now, what I would say is getting Venezuelan oil, to your point, Spring, Venezuelan infrastructure is garbage. It is completely decrepit from economic mismanagement. Some of that Venezuela's fault, some of that America's fault. Doesn't really make a difference for our purposes here. The only way that you could get oil from Venezuela for use while you're doing your war with Iran, in my opinion, is if you bring it to Texas. But that would mean that extraction is pretty easy. And extraction is not easy. Venezuelan oil is notorious for being hard to get out of the ground. And the infrastructure has not been updated in a long time. Okay, so I don't see it exactly as the easiest thing to do. How you doing, Robert? Don't worry, be happy. No crazy war. I guess you got the crazy war in the end after all. Juan says the Miami gave it away. Yeah, they came to Miami pretty early in the 90s. So a lot of the Venezuelans that we're celebrating today, I actually went down to where the Venezuelans meet up which is called El Arepaso. And I sent video in the Discord. I'll show you guys now. A lot of people were celebrating, and people like my parents who came over earlier, it's not that they look down on these people, but they see them as very hypocritical because a lot of them made money through Hugo Chavez, and now they're celebrating, and it's fuck you. So I completely relate to that. But yeah, my parents were early adopters. My mother is a good liberal. She believes in liberal democracy, and she came over in the 90s because she didn't want to see any sort of dictatorship in her life when Chavez was doing the coups. So in 92. So they got out pretty early. William says, good point. Thank you. People's Press. How you doing, sir? I don't see how this will work out well for the U.S. long term. So was Netanyahu and Charlie Kirk the two shot callers PBD was talking about? I guess so. That's a good one, sir. That's a good one. Man, dude, Twitter is just crapping out on me, man, because we have everything pulled up. Anything, I'll try to reload it here, but this is going to be a pain. But yeah, I do think that it could work out for the U.S., honestly, People's Press. I think that it's tough to say, but the United States here, stands to benefit quite a bit if they can come in there. They already said they're going to send in a BlackRock delegation to sort of divvy up assets and make sure that everything works out. And for the United States, man, if they can get in there and they can really take ownership of the country, I'm not saying this would be beneficial to Venezuelans and make it a petrol station as a country. It would be very interesting to see what happens. Venezuela during the democratic period was kind of that, but not exactly. I Hate Everything says, how you doing, sir? Have you seen the edits, Leo? I have seen the edits. I have them here. I hope Twitter doesn't give us much issues. Have you seen what Zohran said? That's going to be interesting to see. And Robert says that last video did it. Trump lost it. Which video, Robert? Which one do you mean? But yeah, Trump has put out some. Do you mean the Biggie Smalls one? The Biggie, can't you see? He's really gone off the rocker, man. The reaction has been very funny, very restrained from Marco Rubio. So here we have the Discord, which you can join at the link below. This is footage that I took today down at, this is kind of like the Versailles, which is the Cuban restaurant where all the Cuban exiles meet up in whenever there's a commotion in Cuba for Venezuelans in America, which is the Arepaso in Doral, Florida, pretty much like 2 miles from the Trump Doral. So we had, when I was there, was about maybe 100 people, a little bit more. You can see Cuban flags, Venezuelan flags. This here was, it was pretty full last night, and I'm sure it's going to be full tonight. But here you can see there were all sorts of people there. I had more footage, but here you can see the cars were honking. The people were having fun, celebrating the end of... Oh, thank you, Robert, for the super chat. I appreciate you, sir. Let me get right to that. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. This emergency stream is cool to do. All right, let me see here. Robert says, wonder if Johnny Cochran is available or one of those OJ lawyers maybe could help out with with Maduro. Cochran is available or one of those OJ lawyers would maybe help him out with Maduro. I think that with Maduro... Let me finish the plugs here. By the way, here is the Patreon, $5 or $20 a month. I was going to post the videos today that we are making for the King Leo movie channel, but obviously up until 4:15 a.m. I couldn't do it. And here's the What Would a Postmodernist Do parody bracelet that is available. Getting to Robert's point, I would not be surprised given how Baudrillardian Mr. Maduro has been recently, that we could see like the most postmodern trial ever. I mean, this guy could really make it a whole joke. It could be pretty funny to watch, honestly. So we have to prepare for that if that happens. Dude, Twitter's just crapping out on me. This really sucks. Let me see here if I can fix it. But yeah, that Robert, I'm not surprised if Maduro... I would be surprised if he got off completely. I don't think that can happen. But I do think that... with the right representation, he could at least make a mockery of the whole thing. And that's not beneficial to the United States. So we'll see. Let's keep up with the chats here. And we'll get to Twitter once this clears up. Actually, I'm going to show you here before we get to Twitter. Why is this here? All right. Yeah, let's get to, this is more footage of where I was today. I went in the afternoon. Thank you again, Robert, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. So you can see this was just full of Venezuelans having a grand old time celebrating. This is Miami, dude. This is not a place where Maduro is very popular. Even these people who, most of them, I assume, or at least half of them, made money under the Chavez regime, they are not happy with Maduro himself. So they were just having a good time, man. It was interesting to go see. Here we have, we'll get to that actually. Hopefully Twitter clears up for us. But there you can see how it happened. Let's catch up with the chat. Devil IC says, "Oh no, BlackRock." It's not surprising though, Devil IC. Because think about it. I mean, BlackRock is managing Panama at this point. This is the way that America handles things now. It's all through private equity of some sort. I mean, it's not a private equity firm, but it might as well be. People's Press says BlackRock is already doing that here in Germany. Not surprised. It's a great form of like soft and hard power, like down the middle. I Hate Everything says, "The only thing I hated was how many on the left were lecturing many Venezuelans. How dare you be happy." I did find that annoying to myself, man, because as someone who doesn't get in the way of other people, I saw some people who were saying that, oh, you know, you're a traitor. People have done this for a long time. You're a gusano. And dude, as someone who even isn't super unkind to the Venezuelan regime, I'm not saying that they're good guys, but I'm not a super judgmental guy on them. You know, I had a couple uncles and cousins who died due to lack of medicine. So you would understand why some people are angry. You know, my uncle ran out of heart medication and wasn't able to get it to him on time. You know, my grandfather, he ran out of some sort of lung medication. That happened. My other grandfather died to violence in Venezuela. That is that regime is responsible for. You know, that the criminality got out of control. So I'm not going to begrudge people for being happy. You know, it's just the way of the world. I'm not going to begrudge an American for being happy when they killed Osama bin Laden, right? It's just not it's not empathetic. All right, we're actually good. Let's do it. Spice says, "Wicked nation, brain dead citizens." Do you mean Venezuela or America? I Hate Everything says, "Maduro." Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got here. Dude, we're going to look at all of that. Baditolino, how you doing? Do you think the Chinese helped coordinate a chill transfer? I don't believe the official narrative from Hegseth. The Chinese angle is so weird, Pajarito Lindo. I thought this was a sort of like Japan situation where they're dropping the bombs on Hiroshima to warn the Soviet Union, because it's so odd that they did this with China, the Chinese delegation there. I'm not actually sure how that worked. There was definitely some sort of mole on the inside. Someone had to be giving information. The United States has said there was a mole on the inside today. You don't know how much of that is psychological operations or not. If you're not familiar, guys, look up the 1954 coup in Guatemala and read about it so you can understand how this is done. But yeah, I'm very curious as to why they chose this date. There was a lot of confounding information in the fog of war. There was rumors that Delcy Rodriguez was in Moscow. I thought they were true at first, and when they weren't true, I was like, that's very strategic and smart. Wouldn't expect the Trump admin to do that, but they did. So let's start here with the memes that came out first. We're going to start with the memes. We have some Maduro memes later. Here we have, as I told you guys last week, man, we love him or hate him. I told you that when Netanyahu said he wanted this guy out, he was out. He was out. So this is a pretty appropriate meme. I think that if you want to get rid of someone, just contact Benjamin Netanyahu.
Netanyahu, kill this guy and my life is yours. Kill him and my life is yours. God damn it. Die! Die!
Famous last words for the person that they're being said to, man. Famous last words. Let's continue. We have here Dude, my uncle saw this shit live. My uncle was like a humble guy. He was a baseball recruiter. He's just living out there with his kid, and he was like, "Bro, they're blowing up the fucking city." What? He was losing his mind, man. I mean, dude, I gotta give it to Trump. This is the most amazing, awesome, in the denotational sense, special military operation I have seen in my life. I've never seen anything like this before, and I don't think we'll see anything since. George H.W. was more organized with Panama because he got the whole job done. But dude, when I was watching, I was up at 4 and I was like, how the fuck? This is crazy. They're targeting all the right places, you know? So it's fucking crazy. It is crazy how this works. Body Delaney says the U.S. was encircling the Venezuelan coast for weeks and Maduro was chilling, doing meet and greets like there's no way we didn't see this coming a bajillion miles away. Body Dolindo, my producer, was saying that the problem with Maduro was that he did not go absurd enough. He was not Baudrillardian enough. If he, instead of hiding, because apparently he was trying to hide when he was caught, he was being guarded by the Cubans that Cuba plays a heavy role in Venezuela and provides security. They were, a lot of them died apparently during this. If he had been, instead of doing that, throwing dance parties every weekend, it'd be, you know, maybe he would be alive. But he went too serious. He got sucked into the real. Let's continue here. How you doing, Just Jerry podcast? Iran next. We'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if BB doesn't like you. I'd look out. Badi Del Nino says, would have been more honorable for Maduro to go out with a fight, maybe death. This is why I think it was negotiated peacefully. I can't disagree with you there. This was very pathetic for Maduro. This was very pathetic for any of these BRICS countries. As I've said, guys, from the start, I am a postmodernist. I'm a Baudrillardian. I don't believe in anything. I don't believe in love. I don't believe in ExxonMobil. I don't believe in Android. I don't believe in Toyota. But I do believe in America. Because America and the 1,000-year American empire is here to stay. And when you can humiliate all the BRICS countries like this, it really is something. I hate everything says, thanks to our new Giga Chad super straight military. Absolutely. And just to be aware here, we're smoking on that Maduro pack. That's a Maduro Flor de las Antillas. We got to make sure it's a Maduro tonight. Let's continue. What else we got? This one was great. Look at Mark. As a Floridian, I got to tell you, whether you love him or hate him, I never thought Enrique Kissinger would get this far. I never thought he would get this far. Marco Rubio, we always saw him here in Florida as an idiot. Even people that liked him saw him as a little dim, as a grifter. This guy, he fucking did a whole lot. Like, don't ever let anyone tell you can't do something. Marco Rubio proves otherwise. This is a guy who worked his way into being the Henry Kissinger of the 21st century. Let's see the edit here. This is a great one here. Obviously, the John Hamm meme with AI. You know, Rubio's having a great time right now. Let's continue. We got here a JD Vance one of attacking him in Venezuela. Let's watch here.
When our satellites detected 10 megatons of Chinese depleted fentonium in Venezuela, we are suspecting Maduro is trying to build a Fent reactor.
Who the fuck gave him the Fent reactor schematics?
Turns out Microsoft outsourced engineers from China to handle our government systems, and they had access to confidential information for the past 20 years.
Motherfucker Bill Gates. I knew not to trust him after he tried vaccinating mosquitoes and shit.
Bill Gates has been dealt with, sir.
Fuck it, we wigger nuke him.
Already ahead of you, boss. Kirkinator is on his way with a non-lethal wigger nuke.
So why the fuck are we nuking Venezuela?
It's not a nuke, Pookie. It's a wigger nuke. There's a difference. You'll see.
So there we have Arian Maduro. I don't know how people were this quick with these memes, man, but Charlie Kirk bombed Venezuela. Here we have Maduro on the Joe Rogan podcast in the Nike Tech Fit. Drip too hard. They had to arrest him. The drip was too hard. I gotta say, dude, the guy was aura farming as he was being arrested. You can't say that for Saddam. You can't say that for Noriega. I mean, did he say... Mr. President, let me put on the Nike Fit, please. I cannot leave without the Nike Fit because it was the perfect outfit. It was the perfect outfit. I wouldn't be surprised if we see this at some point, man. The world is crazier than you think. Here we have Enrique Kissinger the famous Kissinger photo with Marco Rubio's face on it. I got to pull out my copy of On China over here. No, I don't have On China. I have, what is that? I can't see the title from here. I got to pull out my first edition Kissinger, dude. I like to pick the winners, man. I like to pick the winners. And here we have finally what they posted today, infringing on the copyright of Biggie Smalls. But if you're the country that will go in and kidnap President Maduro, and by the way, I got to give Trump something. He actually did something. Whether you love it or hate it, he did something. You know, something happened. Nothing ever happened, bros. You're in shambles.
Venga por mí. Aquí lo espero en Miraflores. No hace tarde llegar, cobarde.
And now, if you don't know, now you know.
The White House posted this. All right, so let's get into the serious side here, which is we have to look at the prelude, and it's important that we look at what Trump has said about Venezuela as well as Colombia, because Colombia is going to play a pretty big role here. Petro, who said he was going to back Venezuela with his military, didn't do that. Wow, who would have thought? Yeah, maybe you're a pussy retard who should shut his mouth. Petro, I've never liked this guy, dude. I've never been a Petro fan. I've never liked. Let's catch up with the chat. We'll get into it. Barito Lino says Maduro's just a bus driver who wants to dance. He'll be dancing in prison now. Just Jerry says Rubio is now Big Marco. He is big. I think Rubio is going to be the next president, man. I really do. I think JD Vance is too tainted. I think Rubio is going to get it. He's proven that he is an effective operator, especially for the interests of Israel. I'm not saying that we live in a government occupied by Israel. I'm not saying that stuff. You know, I don't follow Israel that closely. But this is definitely something that matters to the people who are the real power brokers in the country. Everything says now he's going to be dancing with Diddy. He's going to the same prison as Diddy. I think that if they send him to ADX Florence, he's going to link up with El Chapo. That's the Supermax prison. Fashion City Metaverse says first it was stealing Gaza, Palestine land, and organs. The petrodollar, America oil reserves empty. BRICS currencies baskets for Venezuela oil no longer using the dollar. Fashion City Metaverse, if you're bullish on BRICS, I disagree, but everyone's entitled to their opinion. Gaza, I guess, has some relation to this, although that started under Joe Biden, but I understand. Everything says Latin Central American leaders from the past come join us. Maduro, Pinochet, Perez Jimenez, Allende, all welcoming into heaven. Please come in, sir. Come in. Mr. Elu, how you doing, sir? Everything says, imagine if Trump got rid of the cartels in Mexico. We have to look at Mexico too, because he's been threatening Shibum. I made a video a while ago. It wasn't a huge hit where I said, dude, this is Sicario 2 government. If you watch Sicario 2, I actually really liked it. I didn't know it was going to be the actual plan for how to govern the United States. So let's watch here. Let's start here with, this was Trump warning Maduro late last year. Okay, let's see what he had to say.
Maduro offered everything in his country, all the natural resources. He even recorded a message to you in English recently, offering mediation. What should we do in order to stop that?
He has offered everything. He's offered everything. You're right. You know why? Because he doesn't want to fuck around with the United States. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Maduro.
You don't want to fuck around with the United States. Hey, dude, this is the first time I've seen Trump actually stand on business. He usually tacos. Trump always, what is the taco abbreviation? Trump always cucks out. But he actually did it. He said, don't fuck around. They fucked around. Dude, look at this. Look at this. They made him look Mexican. Jeez, man. Jeez, this is wild. All right, so remember, keep this in mind. This is last December, just a month ago. Here we have Maduro earlier this week. I'll translate here. This was interesting because, as I've said from the beginning, Venezuela, I don't suspect that they traffic in fentanyl. I don't think that's the case. But given that Trump has declared fentanyl weapons of mass destruction, and, they have it, apparently. First it was Mexico, then it was Chinese labs in Mexico, then it was China, now it's Venezuela. I always said I don't think that's true, but I definitely know it's not true that it's cocaine. Cocaine comes from Peru and Colombia, mostly Peru, in my opinion. And here, maybe this is why Petro didn't back Maduro. Here, he fell into the reel, okay? And he was explaining that Venezuela does not make cocaine. Let's watch.
So all of the cocaine that is moved in this region is produced in Colombia. All of it. All of the cocaine. We're the victims of Colombian drug trafficking. Not from today, from decades. So all of the...
So here Maduro was trying to displace blame. This is earlier this week, saying it was actually Petro who was trafficking the cocaine. It's not the United States. It's not Venezuela. There's no reason to attack Venezuela for cocaine trafficking. Is that a good idea? I think Petro would have cucked out either way. But, doesn't matter, okay? He alienated... What allies does Maduro have? He has Nicaragua. They're not going to send shit. Okay, it's Nicaragua. Cuba, they'll send intelligence. They're not going to send troops. They had to borrow Venezuelan troops to put down the riots in 2021. And that's it. I mean, Lula, to an extent, a soft ally. Petro was the one who was out there standing up for him, and he just betrayed him. He betrayed him. I mean, dude, if you do this with the only allies, let's continue. Here we have the actual footage. Let's get the helmet on for this. This is what is this? This is like oh yeah, this is my Soviet helmet. All right, let's watch this so we can really get into it. All right, this was the actual bombing footage. Let's see how it was. This was taken last night. This is at 2 a.m. through 4:15 a.m. in my time on Eastern Coast.
Okay, levanta vaina. Pues llámame mamá.
Look at that. Dude, my mom was telling me, my cousin was telling her, yeah, my cousin is her brother's daughter, that, dude, like everything was shaking. The sky was completely black. It was fucked up.
Bien, Michi, vamos bien. Mira allá, mira el quemado.
Esto es Avenida Fuerzas Armadas, algo explotó. Se estremecieron los edificios, no sé qué está pasando allí. Pero han pasado bastantes motorizados y los bomberos. En vivo y en directo, aquí estamos.
So what's important to mention there is a lot of people are wondering about the Venezuelan response, okay? And the Venezuelan response has been interesting. I know this from people on the ground because you're not going to get real news in America, okay? What's been happening is in Venezuela, there is the militia. The militia is retarded, okay? It's just a bunch of like people that have nothing to do. Are made the head of their neighborhood, like a CDR in Cuba. A CDR is like the head of the neighborhood, and they snitch on everyone. Literally last night, as the bombs were falling, my cousin, who has 2 babies, goes outside to see what's going on, and her neighbor is like a super chavista, defending the government, militia member, like a militia leader. And she comes out, and everyone's standing on the block. And she goes, we need to take to the streets and we need to fight the imperialists. And my cousin and everyone else looked at her and they were like, you dumb bitch. I'm not doing anything. What are you talking about? I'm going back inside. I don't want to die. So that militia, that's fake, okay? I've said it from the start. The militia is fake. It's pretty stupid, all right? However, there is a group that's called the colectivos, the collectives. These are motorized not necessarily drugs. They're motorized gangs, thugs that are allies of the government. And they go out in the street and they keep control whenever there's a riot. They're private, so it's kind of like third world Wagner Group. Okay, it's what you would imagine your Mexican uncle would set up as Wagner Group. It's him and his buddies on motorcycles beating people up. They also have guns. They have been patrolling all day ever since this happened. Everyone's been at home, man. I guess some people went out. There's no protests here because these guys have been patrolling all day to keep it all chilled out. Okay. It's just those are the real power center on the ground to keep people at bay. And my cousin, she's just staying inside. She's staying inside. She's not going outside. My uncle's not going outside. He's not messing with those guys because they'll rob you. They're thugs. They don't give a shit. Let's continue here. Here we have the response. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is a really odd thing of Trump to have done, which is he collected Maduro, but he left behind Diosdado Cabello, who is not the second in command formally, but the second most powerful person in Venezuela. We've watched clips of his show on here. He does a show every week called Con el Mazo Dando, which translates to with the what is it called in English? The thing that the Flintstones guy has. You know, it's like a club but big. Fred Flintstone carries it around. He has like a literally a giant model of one and like hits his desk with it. And he just rants for like 2.5 hours. YouTube banned his channel. I bet he's on Rumble with Fresh and Fit. He's the second most powerful guy in Venezuela. He's very important. And they just left him there. He has a huge bounty on his head. And he came out last night. If you notice here, he has on his chest, let me make this big and we'll catch up with the chats out of this one. This here is the flag of death, of to the death, the flag of to the death. This flag was very important during the Revolutionary War in Venezuela. It was used by the Patriots after my ancestor who fought for the Spanish because he was looked down on as a poor white person and he saw the revolutionaries as elites. His catchphrase was death to the white people. He was white, he was Asturian, but he would go around saying death to white people with a gang of like poor white people, blacks and Indians. And this got so annoying for Bolivar because Bolivar at first was trying to make this a Mantuano revolution, meaning a revolution of the elites, of the traditionally white elite in Venezuela. And he got so pissed off that he was like, fuck it. We're doing democracy and everyone's equal now. Okay. Black people are cool. Indians are cool. Everyone's cool. All right. Fuck it. We need to defeat these people because they're too much. And so he made this flag called the flag of to the death, which Cabello's wearing here, Diosdado's wearing here. And that means that you take no prisoners. It means no quarter. And you wave this flag when you want no quarter. So let's watch him here last night responding. Let's see here.
Calma. Que nadie caiga en el desespero. Que nadie caiga en facilitarle las cosas al enemigo invasor.
He's saying, no one fall into desperation. No one make this any easier for the foreign invaders.
Al enemigo terrorista que nos atacó.
The terrorist enemy that has attacked us.
Cobardemente.
Cowardly.
Que nadie le facilite las cosas.
No one facilitate things for them.
No es la primera lucha, no es la primera batalla que contra este pueblo.
This is not the first fight that the people have had to face.
Han emprendido algunos, creyendo que nos van a derrotar, creyendo que van a mancillar el honor.
They keep thinking that they're going to destroy us, to take our honor.
Y la dignidad del soldado, del policía, del venezolano de a pie.
The dignity of the soldier, the policeman, the average Venezuelan. Look, this is all crap. This is all crap. Look at this. Does this look like a professional army to you? This is not. These are probably members, it's a little blurry so I can't see, of the Sabine, which is one of, there's a couple intelligence agencies that the Chavistas set up, the SICPIC and the Sabine, as well as regular soldiers, but they're not, this is the soldier's uniform. This is an OG Venezuelan uniform, okay? They're not wearing that. He's out here in a bulletproof vest and a blue shirt. This is a clown show. This is a clown show. Dude, I know we have sympathizers here and I understand why of these regimes and it's cool, like Cuba and Venezuela. I get it. But these are clown shows. They are disasters. If you think that these guys are coming to save you, I regret to inform you, they're not going to save you. These guys are clowns. This is a clown. And that's why I don't get why he's alive. Why didn't Trump take him out? This is the half measure I'm confused about. You're leaving behind the second most powerful person there who has a $10 million bounty on his head, if I'm not mistaken. He's not going to negotiate with you. And if he does, this is like half denazification, half debothification. Rubio's supposed to be talking to the president, who is Delcy Rodriguez. She was the actual second in command. But today she came out and she said, we were attacked by the Zionists. She literally said that, and that we need Maduro back. So it's just, this is like a quarter measure. It's not even a half measure. But this was the response. Okay, let's catch up with the chat and we'll move on. We see here mentioning Gary Webb. You guys should watch the movie. It's a good movie. What's it called? Kill the Messenger. That's a good one. Just Jerry says militia sounds like the liberal protesters in America. Dude, in Venezuela, the militia is just like average people that are poor and need some money. You know, they need money. My cousin's in the militia. She was like, fuck it. They give you a little baton and a little stipend and a uniform. You have to do it, but you also don't have to do it. And she was like, I need a little money. I'm not going to not do it, you know? Militia is a bunch of retards. They're just normal people, you know? They're not trained in anything. Mr. Elu says the U.S. took it over without them firing a single shot. What do you mean? Are you talking about Venezuela, sir? Apparently, 2 people died, is so far that we know of. But this was very clean. This reminded me of George Bush the father. It's very clean. I hate everything says some of you might die, but it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make vibe. Yes, absolutely, man. These guys here, look, man, because it's a kleptocracy at the end of the day. These guys, at the end of the day, I'm not saying they're drug traffickers or that they're not communists. Maybe they believe in communism. My grandfather, who was a Stalinist and never believed in these guys, and never believed. He was like, these guys are clowns. My mom was in the Navy. She knows this guy, Cabello. She knows him because he was her commanding officer, and they called him the Gazette because at the academy, he always walked around with a newspaper so that he could keep up with the horse races because he was always betting on them. So she was like, this guy's a clown. He's a gambling addict. You know, she knows who he is. Mystery Lou says, sounds like liberals in America too. I guess it's like if you're poor, right? If you were poor and the government said, hey, if you join this militia, you'll get $5 a day. I mean, I would fucking do it. Why not? It's $5, right? It's still money. Just Jerry says, great pod today, man. Good info. Thank you. I appreciate you, sir. Yeah, I'm trying to give some real alpha here from what I know from real life, real life. And you saw some protests on your way out of work. Interesting. Mr. Elo says it's just sad. It is sad, man. It's sad because people like my cousin and my uncle, they're getting caught in the crossfire. They're not political. I have an uncle who recently, he's sick and he's dealing with this crap. You know, he's sick and he has to deal with this. It's stupid. It's stupid. Marito Lindo says it's a disaster, but so is what happened in Guatemala. You know, absolutely. Absolutely. Are you talking about 54? Absolutely. That was humiliating. William says, apparently Venezuela bought thousands of anti-aircraft missiles, manpads. Why do you think they weren't in the city to defend the capital? Dude, they went after all the missile launching sites. Those were in La Guaira. That's where they were. They were also caught off guard. And I don't know why they were off guard. I guess the human mind adapts to anything. But they're supposed to have manpads. They also scrambled the Russian jets they have. But Venezuela does not have the best stuff. It really doesn't. And the army is not exactly loyal. I don't mean that they're disloyal. A lot of people would think, oh, the army is disloyal. They're not trying to defend the country. No, what's going on is that the army, you're not paid enough to care, which is a problem for them. You're not paid enough to be in the army, but you're not paid enough to care. So it's a really weird dynamic. And you're going to risk getting bombed by the Americans for some guy that if you turn him in, you get $50 million. Those are real Nietzscheans down there, dude. You haven't met the Venezuelan thugs, or maybe you have in New York. The Venezuelan thug and the Venezuelans have always hated the National Guard because they are the thuggiest thugs in all of Venezuela. They used to say, it was a common expression, you rather run into a malandro, which is a thug, that's our name for thugs, than someone of the National Guard. You rather run into them because those guys are at least reasonable, okay? Mr. Elu says your grandfather sounds smart. He was smart, but he fought a war he could never win, man. Betrayed by the Democrats, betrayed by everyone. My grandpa used to say, like, near the end of his life, he was like, you know what I hate is that these Americans, man, They conquered the world all while they were chewing gum. You know, he was really realistic. I Hate Everything says China has to invade Taiwan now to one up us. I don't think China has it in them, dude. I would say that would be fucking really interesting to watch. China just skydive in and kidnap the president of Taiwan. Let's continue here. Let's continue here. Here we have, this is the Venezuelan patriots. The person here didn't really identify who they are. These guys are out here. This was last night, protesting and defending their country, their fatherland against the United States. As you can see, these are geriatrics, people who are out of shape. They're dressed in jeans. This is your army. This is your army. This is the army.
¡Que viva la patria! ¡Viva!
Saying the fatherland is not for sale. I say fatherland because in Spanish we say patria, which comes from the Latin root word is patris, which is the father. People translate it as homeland. That's inaccurate. It's fatherland. We don't have a negative connotation because we didn't get obsessed with World War II.
¡Que viva la patria!
So let's keep going. Let's keep going. That's the army. Here we have, this is more footage last night when it was more full at the Arepaso where the Venezuelans get together. Cubans were very happy as well because if you take down Venezuela, and Rubio obviously knows this, Enrique Kissinger, if you take out Venezuela, you have cut off Cuba from any support. Cuba is done. They have no energy. They're done. Cuba is on its last legs if Venezuela is gone. Who are they going to rely on? Nicaragua? Russia's not sending people. Russia's not sending money. They don't have any money to send. China, you think China is notorious for backing off in the Caribbean. They are notorious for this. If the U.S. simply says, hey, we don't like this, they back off. They backed off in Jamaica. They backed off in, where else were they? They weren't in Grand Cayman. But when they were in Jamaica, they were doing some really cool projects. They backed off in El Salvador when America told Bukele to chill out because he was playing the Chinese and America against each other. They always back up. So the Cubans are very happy as well because they're saying, oh, if this goes down, maybe our shit can go down as well. Here we can see the damage that was done. They were able to film it in the morning. This is, I assume, at like 7 a.m. Yes, 7:47.
Les vamos a mostrar las imágenes del punto donde ocurrió el ataque. Mientras podemos reseñar que este es el edificio de la sede de la Comandancia de la Aviación, donde no se registró afortunadamente afectaciones de consideración, pero sí un poco más adelante, donde varias unidades de transporte civil fueron destruidas.
He's saying up ahead is where a lot of let me go back, man. Hang on.
Donde varias unidades de transporte civil fueron
where a lot of the civilian transportation units were destroyed.
Destruidas. Y también equipamiento militar que se encontraba en el sitio.
And military equipment that was in that place.
Les estamos recordando que estamos transmitiendo en vivo. Obviamente la transmisión puede ser un poco a nivel de lo que es la calidad visual, pero obviamente estamos transmitiendo lo que está pasando. Ya podemos ver a mano derecha lo que fue el punto del ataque, podemos ver el humo. Vamos a parar el vehículo aquí. Vamos a parar el vehículo aquí y ahora sí nos vamos a bajar para mostrarles a ustedes en exclusiva las imágenes del ataque. Vamos a bajar, vamos a bajar. Okay, aquí tenemos el punto.
Actually, my producer is telling me, guys, we have to take a break. We have to look at CNN live because CNN has Maduro being taken in. Literally right now in New York. Let's watch. Where is this, man? Yeah, this is live. Is this live? No, this is not live. Where is it live, man? Maduro is in New York. I have the footage of him landing, but I guess this is literally happening right now. The fuck is this? CNN live. Send me the link, please, sir. Send me the link. Oh, actually, I got it here. I got it here. Let me open the link. Let me open the link. We gotta watch CNN live, man. Here we go.
And Luigi Mangione, but at least for the first day, it is entirely probable that they will be by themselves, but separate.
What's it like inside that facility, John?
So that is not the pride of the U.S. Bureau of Prisons. This is a building that has been in disrepair for some time, suffers from a lack of heat in the winter, which is right now, problems with plumbing and water, problems with medical care, particularly problems that have been the subject of complaints by female inmates who say there is not the health care, the medical facilities, the gynecology that's required for female prisoners. So it's a place that has a long history of substandard reports. It's a place that's been the subject of corruption investigations, other investigations. It is a facility that has had its problems through the years. And for an individual, two individuals, a husband and wife, who were at the pinnacle of power and dictatorship, who lived in a series of palaces and very opulent places, this is going to be a real shock to the system in terms of lifestyle changes.
I mean, that's
Look at that.
a great point just in terms.
Look, they got him right there. Dude, look at how tall he is. Holy shit.
You know, what was happening 24 hours ago with Maduro and his wife. I just want to tell everyone who's maybe just tuning in, what we are watching are live images of helicopters believed to be carrying Maduro and his wife as they are making their way across the New York City skyline. You just saw a moment ago the Statue of Liberty in the background as he is being transported to the Brooklyn jail where he is expected to be held for the foreseeable future. John, can we talk about where they're landing? Because earlier it was the helipads on the West Side Highway. Obviously, we were just watching those images there as he's expected to be transported to where Evan Perez was just standing a couple of minutes ago. I mean, this is obviously all incredibly unusual.
Yes, this is definitely a one of a kind. We've been through things like this before, similar things with prisoners like El Chapo, but none of them have been this high profile, including that of the president.
This is really interesting, man, because they're taking him to New York. So I think it's a Southern District that's prosecuting him, which is notorious for, well, actually, let's keep
what
watching.
appears to be Bush Terminal Park by a recreational facility. All of that is sealed off. The helicopters landing in the foreground. You see a truck from the NYPD's Emergency Service Unit, which is the equivalent of their SWAT team. And to the left of that, you see a motorcade lined up, ready to pull out. Vehicles will approach those helicopters from a closer distance. The prisoners will be transferred from the helicopters to those vehicles, and then they will move around to one of the entrances, either the front or the back, to where Evan Perez is stationed for us, and then they'll be processed into that jail.
Well, and as Evan noted, and we'll see what happens before the judge when they appear before him. Obviously, this is an indictment.
So my producer, he would say, I missed to mention, first of all, the guy who's talking, this is a very important journalist, the man, okay? This guy is brought out at every juncture where something important is going to happen. Forget his name, it escapes me, but we'll see him again. He was one of the guys who interviewed Osama bin Laden back in the day. And ever since then, whenever something big is happening, you have to watch out for this guy on the TV. He is the guy that you will get alpha from. They're discussing apparently whether he will get bail or not. My producer says I'd be remiss to mention that he is no longer the president of Venezuela. And we are being told here, the way he's being portrayed is as a sort of common criminal, okay? This is now another El Chapo figure. His name is John Miller, the journalist. John Miller. I'm going to type it in the chat, dude. John Miller. Oh, actually, Mr. Elu did it. John Miller is the most important journalist you can watch. Anytime he's on the TV, big things are happening. Anytime. Before the Iran war last year, he was on the TV. Before Soleimani, he was on the TV. He's always on the TV when important stuff happens, okay? Now, discussing if he gets bail or not, this is fascinating because he's supposed to be treated as this is no longer a foreign dignitary. It reminds me a lot, I wasn't alive for it, but when Noriega, and this is why it's important that it's in New York, when Noriega was brought into the U.S., he was brought into Miami. I've actually been to the prison where he was at with a lawyer friend of mine. And They're not bringing him there. They're bringing him to New York. If it's a Southern District, they're going to throw the heaviest of the heavy. This is where they tried El Chapo. The Southern District is notorious for essentially being a show trial place, okay? You want to beat Fed charges, you're just as delusional as someone who thinks you can beat a Soviet show trial, okay? This is crazy shit, man. He's no longer the president. He's no longer the president. His wife is there. Are they going to get bail? If we're even discussing if they're going to get bail, it's over.
Of Manhattan. Now we see that DEA team moving him across the field towards a vehicle. But these are special operators, these SWAT teams. They're used to working in darkness. In many ways, darkness can be their friend.
Yeah, in terms of how they're getting around. Ellie Honig, you're also here. Can you tell us, just legally speaking, what's about to happen with Maduro and his wife? I mean, we know obviously what happens when someone typically is indicted and arrested. What is going to play out over the next few hours for them?
Well, Caitlin, as unusual as the circumstances are with a president or former president and his wife being in the defendant's chair, largely this will be our criminal justice process the way that it always works. So as John and you have been discussing, he's on his way to the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn right now, which houses federal inmates in New York City. Presumably on Monday, we don't know for sure, but usually you try to get the initial appearance done the first available business day. So as early as Monday, he will make an appearance in federal court. They'll take him across the river to the Southern District of New York. The courthouses there are at the southern tip of Manhattan. Now,
he's fucked.
This case has been assigned to a federal judge named Alvin K. Hellerstein. He's been a judge since 1998. I've appeared in front of him many times. Either Judge Hellerstein himself will hold the initial conference, or he will refer it to a magistrate judge, which is a different type of federal judge. And at that hearing, again, which could be on Monday, Caitlin, a few things will happen. First of all, Maduro and his wife will be advised of the charges against them. They will enter their initial pleas, probably almost assuredly not guilty at this point. They will make sure that both of these defendants have defense counsel, and if they don't, then the court will assign defense counsel, at least temporarily. And then, as John Miller said, the judge will consider the issue of bail, but there's no way either of these folks are getting bail. So that'll be the first appearance, and I look for that. I'd expect that to happen on Monday. We don't know for sure, but that's the most likely scenario.
And right now we're seeing these DEA agents around this black SUV. That is what it's a little difficult to see from the aerial footage, but that is what we're watching after they got off of these helicopters that we believe are transporting Maduro and his wife to go to this facility. You mentioned an attorney there, Ellie. I mean, what is it like to be a criminal defense attorney for someone like Nicolas Maduro?
Well, you know, it's incredibly difficult, but I will tell you, I've been in touch with a lot of prominent defense lawyers today who have told me that they are angling to get this case. And remember, criminal defense lawyers, they don't make judgments about whether their clients are good or bad or guilty or not guilty. The reason this is an attractive case for private criminal defense lawyers is, first of all, it's extremely high stakes. The top lawyers like to do high stakes cases, and also they're going to get paid. They know this is a very wealthy individual. They will be able to charge him whatever they believe they can charge. So there's a bit of a scramble happening right now, from what I'm hearing from several prominent defense lawyers, to land this representation, to represent Nicolas Maduro and his wife.
Did they tell you why? Why they want to? I mean,
that's not true. Maduro's assets are frozen. His assets are in Turkey or Dubai. If you're doing this, it's for the clout. And that's a smart thing to do. But note that it's the DEA dropping him off. Maduro is now just another spick picked up on the corner for dealing. He's no longer the president. They're not going to get bail. They're probably going to get public counsel. Someone will do it pro bono. Like the lady who represents Carlos the Jackal and the 13th hijacker. There's lawyers that do this kind of stuff in order to elevate their profile, and God bless them. Everyone's entitled to a good defense. But no, this is not going to they're not going to get paid off of this. There's no way you get paid off of this. The reason that I'm so confident here is because I have a friend who worked at a law firm in Miami where the head lawyer was indicted by the Southern District of New York. Okay, because he was helping out with some sort of sanctions breaking with PDVSA, the national oil company of Venezuela. He was bringing in, he was doing a lot of very sketchy stuff that had to do with sanctions in Venezuela and drug dealers in Colombia, okay? And he got indicted by the Southern District of New York. In the end, he actually beat the case. They dismissed the charges. That's the only person that I have ever heard of who beat the Southern District of New York. And since it's the DEA bringing Maduro in, dude, he's fucked. He is fucked. The lawyer, God bless him, they're going to get a great profile out of this. But he's fucked. There's just no way. There's no way. But damn, dude, reduced to a spick on the corner. Spick on the corner. What's the difference between Maduro and a young Mexican kid selling crack out in Los Angeles? Absolutely nothing. And he's not even going to get bail. That's really something. At least he has a soccer field.
I guess people thought that he might be going there, but we're very close to where the heliport, the other helipad is, that he would be brought. And now we're beginning to hear a little bit of the sirens. I can't tell whether the police are bringing him in this direction or whether they're coming from the opposite direction. Certainly you're going to hear the crowd reaction, but certainly for DEA agents who've been working this case, Caitlin, this is a big moment. You saw some of their presence in the photographs that were released from the White House today. You saw DEA agents playing a role in the celebratory.
Okay, we'll check back in. We have to continue. Moment. That's wild, man. All right, we'll check back in. We'll check back in. That is wild. Wild shit. Let's continue here with the actual, with what actually happened. So here we see the destruction that people could see this morning.
Si todavía nos están siguiendo en vivo y en directo, es importante destacar que la vicepresidenta Delcy Rodríguez pidió una fe de vida del presidente Nicolás Maduro.
He's saying there that the vice president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodríguez, is demanding proof of life from Maduro. Well, now she has it. This was this morning.
Y actualmente las reacciones internacionales son de completo agravio y estupor ante lo que está ocurriendo. Si estamos transmitiendo en vivo todavía, este es el punto del ataque en la base aérea de La Carlota.
This was the attack on the Air Force Base in La Carlota. This is obviously the Venezuelan channel, the government channel. So let's move on, dude, because we have more to get to. But there you can see the destruction. Let's see here. Here we have a militia member yelling this morning. This is what we saw a lot of. These are the types of people that are in the militia.
Que viva Venezuela libre, camarada. Que viva Venezuela de los patriotas.
Long live a free Venezuela, comrade, a patriotic Venezuela, a revolutionary Venezuela, the Venezuela of Chavez. This is Telesur. This is the government media that Chavez set up. And the Venezuela of our brother, Nicolas Maduro Moros. And you see the Chavez portrait. You think these people are going to be able to fight American F-35s? You think this is going to do anything? Lady, go home. Go home. Mr. Elu says, I thought Telesur was the Venezuelan channel. Yes, it was set up by Hugo Chavez. It was a very smart propaganda move in the early 2000s. But ever since then, some people watch Telesur, especially in the West. It kind of has an Al Jazeera Plus status. I Had Everything says, imagine if the Venezuelans give the Republicans the White House. Well, they got a lot of them got deported. So we'll see. All right, and let's move on here. This was, I did not get confirmation of this, but I'll show it. Apparently, this is from this person we hate. I meme, therefore I am. Showing here the some Venezuelans in Venezuela protesting in favor of the United States intervention. This is a song that people who are in the opposition sing, which is the translation is the government has fallen, the government has fallen. I heard this today in Doral. So there you have it. Let's open our other tabs because we have the rest of the story. Let's hope they all load. Go here, history. Where do we got this? Do we have this anywhere? Fuck, dude. Am I fucked? Am I fucked? See here, man. This Elon moves to this country and he ruins everything. Let me see here. Can I restore a tab window? All right. Well, what I'm going to do is I'll pull it up here and we'll have CNN in the corner while we're doing this. I'll organize it again.
America. There's connections between the Venezuelan regime and Hezbollah over the number of years. DEA has cataloged some of those connections, as well as connections with the FARC and the ELN. These are the two rebel militant organizations in Colombia. So, for this moment, for the United States, for the Justice Department, this has been something in the making for more than 20 years. And so now we'll see how these charges stand up in federal court in the coming months, because again, bringing an indictment is one thing, but trying to prove that Nicolas Maduro was indeed personally involved in all of this, certainly I talked to people who say they believe it's a strong case. We'll see how that works once this case goes to trial.
Yeah, and Ellie, Evan, we're watching this motorcade play out. It looks like it's heading exactly where you are, so we're going to be watching this. There's a white van surrounded with police lights. The back door appears to be open as it is slowly making its way through the streets here of New York with that police motorcade, a massive presence. I can hear the Venezuelan, a lot of those Venezuelan nationals that you said are behind you cheering. And you mentioned Noriega, Evan, and I think that's a good point, because we've been talking about the parallels of that case, 36 years after he was captured by U.S. forces in Panama. And you're right, he did get special accommodations. He had, they nicknamed it the presidential suite where he was held. It is not what anyone else would, liken to a presidential suite, but he did get special accommodations in those pretrial proceedings.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think you're going to see play out in the next few months is perhaps his lawyers arguing that he deserves to be treated differently from some of the other prisoners. It's certainly not what for example, the former president of Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez, was entitled to, certainly while he was here. But again, this case is so different, right? We've not, when the former Honduran president came here, you didn't have this crowd show up to cheer his arrival here. It kind of he was just another criminal defendant. Maduro is absolutely different. And so one of the things that they're going to be concerned about is making sure he's secure, that he is, that no harm comes to him or his wife. They did, in the last few years, add some additional facilities inside this building. They have built a special unit for some of the high-profile prisoners that have been held here, including, of course, Diddy, the former rapper who was put on trial in federal court here in New York. So there's a number of high-profile people who have been brought here and have been held at this prison, and they had to make sure that those people were secure. And because of the reputation of this place, I think there was a lot of concern by the Bureau of Prisons to try to at least improve those conditions to make sure those people were secure. But again, the big concern is the security. It's not so much their comfort. Maduro is in for a very rude awakening once he enters these gates behind me.
Yeah, and Beth Sanner is here with us, our CNN national security analyst. She's the former deputy director of national intelligence. And I think, Beth, hearing the stunning level of detail that went into this would best be described as audacious raid, a successful one where they captured Maduro and his wife. As President Trump said, he watched it live and said at one point that they were trying to get to this steel door that they had installed to close it, didn't make it there in time. To think about what has happened to the Maduros in the last 24 hours, what that experience has looked like, and now as they're in this slow motorcade making their way to this facility where he's going to be detained, the level of intelligence in terms of having someone in Maduro's inner circle or having the intelligence of his movements. As General Dan Kane, the Joint Chiefs Chairman, was saying earlier, they knew what he was eating. They knew what he was wearing. They knew the names of his pets. They spent extensive amounts of time to prepare for what led to this moment right here.
Okay, I think we're ready, actually. Let's see this here. Lost some stuff, but we're going to be good. All right, let's do this. So we have here, as I said, put this here at the end. All right. First, let's do a little levity here. Let's see the memes that came out. So here we have Maduro when he was captured. This is what Trump tweeted. Nicolas Maduro on board the USS Iwo Jima. I can't tell if he was flown or if he was sailed to the United States. It's hard to tell. I saw people saying that he was sailed, but I'm not sure. Let's see what people have done with this already. Here we have the famous scene from Burn After Reading.
What the fuck is this? Whose ass didn't I kiss? Huh? Let's be honest. Okay. I mean, let us be fucking honest. This is a crucifixion. This is political. And don't tell me it's not.
He should quote this in court. He should quote this in court. What else have we got? What else have we got? We got this.
No crazy girl,
Dude, the drip was too good. This is wild. This is for the ages. This is for the ages. The perp walk has started. The perp walk has started. We have to go back to CNN.
It's incredible, Caitlin.
Watching so close. I mean, you could just see the massive police presence here. So Evan Perez, if you see something, jump in with us as well. But I mean, watching this play out, Beth, and the parallels between this and Noriega in terms of the last time the United States deposed a strong man.
Right.
What do you see?
Well, I think that, you know, Caitlin, I was just thinking about this. There are three things that are really different about what happened in Panama and what is happening now in Venezuela. The first one is that, you know, we had troops on the ground. We had 13,000 troops. We were part of the fabric of Panama. We had a real presence there. Noriega was actually a CIA operative at one point. The second thing was that there was actually a legitimate government that had been elected, just like in Venezuela. But as the United States was coming in, that leader was sworn in by the judiciary. And at that point, there was a legitimate alternative government that was put in power. And then the third thing is that Panama, you know, is just a totally different scale. Venezuela is 12 times bigger than Panama. It's twice as big as Iraq. It has jungles like Vietnam. It has, you know, plains. It has mountains. It is an incredibly big and complex place that has any number of armed groups operating lawlessly in many parts of the country. So this is a scale that is just completely different. But Noriega and Maduro, nonetheless, are experiencing the very same kind of thing coming into America and experiencing American justice.
And Ellie, you know, we've heard some criticism from unsurprising figures, people like Congressman Thomas Massie, a Republican of Kentucky. He wrote earlier and said, if this action were constitutionally sound, the Attorney General wouldn't be tweeting that they've arrested the president of a sovereign country and his wife for possessing guns in violation of a 1934 U.S. firearm law. Ellie, what do you make of the charges, not just facing Maduro, but also his wife and the role that she's played? Because what we're watching right now, this transport, she's also included in all of this.
Yeah, the charges are much.
I hate everything. Can you see this right now in New York? Can you see all of this going on?
One of them is conspiracy to commit narco-terrorism. That's an extremely serious charge. It means being part of an organization that engages in violence and traffics in drugs and sends them into the United States. Then there are multiple charges of importing mass quantities of cocaine into the United States. The indictment alleges that at times they would send 250 tons of cocaine into the United States per year. So that comes out to 500,000 pounds of cocaine per year, just enormous amounts. And then there are charges relating to use and distribution of, yes, firearms, machine guns, also incendiary devices and bombs. So the charges here are extraordinarily serious. Caitlin, worth noting, if any of these defendants are convicted, they are looking at a mandatory minimum of 30 years in federal prison. I should note that President Maduro is about 63 years old. And if they're convicted, the maximum sentence here would be life. So the stakes are going to be all or nothing for Nicolas Maduro, for his wife, and the other defendants in the case.
Ellie, do you see a contradiction, just as an attorney, in the arrest and shocking capture of Maduro and Trump's recent pardon of Juan Orlando Hernandez, who was indicted and convicted of pretty similar charges?
All right, we'll come back to this when they actually show the perp walk. My producer is saying to mention it. It's true. I wonder how much this whole thing cost, like bringing him into the U.S. How much does this cost? Is this live? No, this is moments ago. How much does all this cost? Dude, they could have just flown him on a commercial jet that they rented, but they put him on the Iwo Jima instead. And it's funny they arrested his wife, right? I'm sure she's accused of something. It'd be funny if he blamed her for everything. It was all her. It was all her. I was just a dummy. You know Charlie Kirk? Are you familiar with Carlito Kirk? You are familiar with him? I was in the same situation. She was Erica Kirk, and I was Charlie Kirk, Carlito Kirk. Okay? Jeez, man. But this had to cost at least $100 million to bring him in like this. This is quite a way of doing it. Look at that helicopter ride. My man. Badi Dolindo says, why did they arrest her? Let me actually look that up. It's a good question. Let's go here. No, let's go to ChatGPT. That should probably be fine. ChatGPT. What is Maduro's wife accused of? Let's see. Narco-terrorism, conspiracy, nepotism, narco-sobrinos. Yes, I would be remiss to mention. If you don't recall, man, there was a very important event where under the Biden administration, Maduro's his nephews were caught. It was at the time where Alex Saab was caught as well, and they were put in prison. And Biden actually pardoned them. He took them out in a prisoner swap. So the whole Maduro family is accused of narco trafficking in some sense or the other. So, I mean, come on, Badi Dolindo, you're Latino, right? Like you have to know, or Latino, or Latinx. You have to know if someone in the family is involved. They're all involved, and Americans know that too. In order to make things work for the justice system. So here we can see the memes have continued. We have here Steal His Look, the Nike sportswear tech fleece, $99. Juan May sleep mask, $7. Flintronic anti-noise ear protectors, $11.99. Steal His Look, man, for a great value, under $150. Wow. All right. What else have they made? Here they have him doing the Ben Affleck pose. This is going to be a great Halloween costume, dude. It's going to be a great one. This is crazy. This is crazy. What else did they do? I mean, there's no point in showing this. We were all seeing this. This is when he first got to, let's see. This is when he first got to New York. This is how he was brought in.
Slowly, deliberately, their hands look from here as if they are handcuffed. The way his legs are moving, it would appear to be that his or her legs, are chained also.
It's probably, it must feel pretty badass to be dripped out Hannibal Lecter, you know? This is when he landed here. They're moving him like he's a cannibal. They're moving him like he's got too much drip.
Pull it off seamlessly. It really paints a picture that is contrasting two different ways. Talk to me about your assessment as someone who has this military experience about this operation that was carried out and how it compares and contrasts to the previous administration.
Yeah, to say it at a high level, the compare and contrast is this. President Trump has never been the forever war president.
And so they brought him in on a plane. At least $100 million. So let's go here. We have to look at what has happened here, which is that this is Delcy Rodriguez. This is the lady who is in charge of Venezuela now. And here she is demanding that Maduro is returned.
Desde este exigimos la inmediata liberación del presidente Nicolás Maduro
We demand the immediate liberation of President Nicolas Maduro
y de su esposa Cilia Flores.
and his wife, Celia Flores.
Único presidente de Venezuela, el presidente Nicolás Maduro.
The only president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro.
Aquí está el alto mando más importante del Estado venezolano, el alto mando militar, el alto mando del Estado,
Here are the highest authorities in Venezuela.
el alto mando del Consejo de Vicepresidentes. Están conjugados todos los factores políticos del poder nacional en Venezuela.
They are all convoked here, the most powerful political branches of the Venezuelan government.
Pero también en las calles de Venezuela hay un pueblo que se ha
But also in the streets of Venezuela, there is a people
activado. En
which is
atención
activated,
a un llamado que ya había hecho el presidente de la República
which is answering a call that was made by the President of the Republic.
y que él advirtió, si algo le ocurriese al presidente Nicolás Maduro, pueblo a la calle, activado,
And he warned that if anything happened to President Maduro himself, the people were supposed to be in the streets activated.
cuerpo de militantes en sus sitios de trabajo, activado, Fuerza Armada Nacional Bolivariana, activada y desplegada
The military activated and on patrol.
en todo el territorio nacional, organismos de seguridad ciudadana activados,
Citizens brigades activated. So we see here, and I know where the other clip is that I wanted to show you here. This page actually is a pretty good compiler, the AF Post. Let's see here, man. Holy shit. This is an update from 20 minutes ago. Details have emerged of the timeline of the operation to depose Nicolas Maduro. Beginning in late summer, U.S. intelligence surveilled Maduro, establishing a pattern of life. U.S. forces attempted to launch the mission on Christmas Day and on New Year's Day. That's not surprising. I expected it to be the 26th because that's when they did the invasion of Panama, Operation Just Cause or Urgent Fury. I get Grenada and Panama mixed up. On Friday night, the weather cleared and President Trump gave the go order at 10:46. At 2 a.m. local time, U.S. forces reached Maduro's fortified compound where the Venezuelan president and his wife attempted to enter a room secured by a steel door. U.S. forces exchanged gunfire with Venezuelan personnel and reached Maduro and his wife before they were able to close the steel doors. At 3:29, Maduro and his wife were aboard on a U.S. aircraft en route to the USS Iwo Jima. Those were Cubans, from my understanding. They weren't Venezuelans. Let's see here. They should have... Oh, man. Look, we have more recent footage of the transport. They're treating him like he's Osama bin Laden, dude. That's crazy. That's crazy. Let's see here. This was the perp walk.
Blue sweatshirt. We saw him a little bit earlier on the image that the president posted, blindfolded and handcuffed, and it appears maybe he's still blindfolded, in a gray sweatshirt, which would likely come off as blue, given the daylight scenario, the lack of daylight. Over there. Again, Ambassador Bolton, who was behind the push? Who really wanted him out? And then number two, was there ever a plan for day two?
Well, I think the problem in the first term, a lot of the president's senior advisors wanted to work with the opposition to overthrow Maduro, who had stolen the 2018 election in Venezuela, just like he.
This is interesting to see this, where the every piece of coverage I've seen has been incredibly positive towards Donald Trump in regards to what he did here, which you wouldn't expect. What did Germany Apoleo say? All right, let's move on. I can't stand her. Her mom is terrible too. Where do we have it, man? Where do we have it? Well, I mean, look, let's go here to Asmongold, who is a noted political commentator. Let's see what he has to say here.
Like, here's one thing I'm going to say, okay? Don't ever let anybody tell you that you can't do it. Because if you went on Twitter everybody was saying, this is against international law. You have to wait for Congress. We'll read the Constitution. Oh, you can't just do that. That's illegal. It's a war crime. And you know what Trump did? He just went in there and did it. That's it. It's over. Just like what happened with Iran. Remember what happened after Iran? Nothing. Nothing happened. Because the fact is that if you have, here's the truth, if you have power and you have the ability to exercise that power through force, you are God. That's it. Nobody can tell you no. Nobody can resist you. Nobody can try to hold you accountable.
So this coverage here, it's a lot like what Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith have put out, and even Thomas Massey. I didn't realize that what people wanted was the lowest IQ, dumbest interpretation of events that's possible. The big man strong, he take down other big men. This has been a resoundingly positive coverage from people that were against neoconism. Even Nick Fuentes came out in support of this, and then he took back what he said. I really am surprised. We've been covering this for months here, okay? I'm not covering Iran for months, so I won't speak on it. People, the opinions that came out, it's Tim Pool tier bullshit, where people just speak bullshit out of their mouth. They have no idea what they're talking about. Asmongold here, I'm sure he hasn't even eaten an arepa in his life, is telling you that it's over. It's not over. And I'm here filtering this bullshit for you, okay? Partially, it's not because I'm Jesus here. It's because I enjoy doing it. How do people, this should make you take a second glance, and this is how the country goes schizo, and that's why we do Schizo Watch on this show. Who is Asmongold? I'm sure he's a fine guy to talk to you about Venezuela. I followed this issue since I was 6 years old because I was forced into it, okay? I'm not saying I'm an expert. You've never been? I'm not that, okay? But do you want a reductive, stupid take about a hot take about how America should do this everywhere because it worked out so great? Is that what people actually want? Do they just want to go around their day going, oh, Tucker Carlson said we're super strong now. We're super straight. We have the straightest army in the world. Hell yeah. We're so straight. We're so tough. We're the built tough. Ford built tough. Is that what you want? Is that what these people are just driving the country nuts? They're just driving the country nuts. These people have never stepped a foot in Venezuela. They don't care about Venezuela, and that's fine. I've accepted people don't give a shit about Venezuela. I do because I have a self-interest in it. But this is Tim Pool tier shit from everyone. How do you, it's particular Nick Fuentes, who I've been, nothing to say about his political rise. Guys, how do you flip-flop on your Venezuela intervention position within 8 hours? How do you do that? I haven't done that because I haven't taken a position, because I'm analyzing. I'm not going to ascribe to you the right position to take because I'm just here trying to understand what's going on. No one wants to understand what's going on. All they want is some bullshit narrative. Some bullshit narrative, man. Okay, so here we have more Delcy Rodriguez. This was the clip I really wanted to show you here because remember I said, when Netanyahu said that it was on, I told you it was actually on. Because I'm not Asmongold. I'm not here speculating, oh, blah, blah, blah. I'm going, oh, Benjamin Netanyahu won 2025. He got everything he wanted. He beat everyone. Because Benjamin Netanyahu is a political genius, no matter if you love or hate him. And when he was here in America and he said, we're going to go after Venezuela because they have Hezbollah over there and they're sending them over to the U.S., I knew it was over. I knew it was over and that some action was going to be taken against Nicolas Maduro. I don't know about the rest of it. So I was right about that. And pretty on the nose, Delcy Rodriguez came out and said this.
Gobiernos del mundo están sencillamente impactados de que sea la República Bolivariana de Venezuela víctima y objeto de un ataque de esta naturaleza que tiene sin duda alguna tinte sionista. Es realmente vergonzoso. Lo dijo nuestro padre libertador en la Carta de Jamaica. El velo se ha rasgado, ya hemos visto la luz y se nos quiere volver a las tinieblas. Se han roto las cadenas, ya hemos sido libres y nuestros enemigos pretenden de nuevo esclavizarnos. Si hay algo que el pueblo venezolano y que este país tiene muy claro, es que jamás volveremos a ser esclavos. Se activa toda Venezuela y el decreto que ya fue suscrito por el presidente Maduro, único presidente de Venezuela. Hay un solo presidente en este país que se llama Nicolás Maduro Moro.
So as you can see, the Zionists are being accused by the Venezuelan government of being behind this. Hey man, I said it. I don't know if they're watching the show in Venezuela. I said, I'm not saying it's because Netanyahu's a Zionist. I'm saying that Netanyahu is a genius. He's a genius. When he says it's over for Maduro, I take him at his word. I'm sure he fucking signed off on all of this for Trump. Let's catch up with the chat. Everything says, I probably heard helicopters and that's it. Oh, okay. If Chavez was alive, what would you think his reaction would be? I don't think they could have taken Chavez, dude. I really don't. I know it's a counterfactual, so it's impossible to prove. But I will say, oh my God, we got to watch this after. I will say this, Chavez would not have to rely on purely Cuban state security to be safe. Chavez is a guy who had a cult. He was a great cult leader. He was very smart. He had people that were loyal to the death, okay? Chavez was handling this den of vipers, which is the Venezuelan government, very well. I don't think they could have got this far. How you doing, 112 and Ephra? How you guys doing? And how you doing, Schofield? All right. I see a lot of talk about Taiwan. Taiwan's gonna be interesting. Let's see here. This is in New York. We had demands from the socialists, and this will take us to Zohran probably, to defend Venezuela.
Stop bombing Venezuela! The U.S. launched a massive criminal bombing campaign on Venezuela. Shame! This war has nothing to do with drug trafficking. If the U.S. were interested in ending drug trafficking, they would talk to their allies in Peru. No more wars for empire! No more! Venezuela! Stop bombing Venezuela! Stop bombing Venezuela!
Do people in New York not have anything else to do? I'm not even shitting on them for doing this. Whatever. You want to go out there and protest. I think protesting is stupid. But do people in New York, do they have anything else to do? It seems like New York is the Paris of America. People just have time to protest. The Quechua flag, the Cuban flag. Do people in New York not have... Look, do people not have jobs? I know it's a Saturday, but do they not have a job or like a park to go to? What's going on in New York? Don't people have stuff to do? Look, man, whether you love or hate Venezuela, I went to the rally for 30 minutes because I wanted to see what people were doing. Okay. But I wasn't going to spend the whole day there. I wanted to go to Brooks Brothers because they have a sale right now. Okay. I wanted to go to the mall. I wanted to go to the Everglades because it's cold right now. I can go see the Nike missile silo. I have stuff to do. Do people not have stuff to do in New York? Robert says maybe they're getting money to protest. I've always heard that. Venezuelans make that accusation a lot about this type of protest. And I'm always skeptical of it, Robert, because maybe not. It's hard to prove. Who would be paying these people to do this? You know, they always say it's Cuban intelligence or Venezuelan intelligence. I mean, what are we talking about, folks? Don't you have something to do? Maybe, Robert, maybe that would explain. You know, maybe that would explain it. But what? Don't you have something better to do? Everything says, Leo, these people will protest against the MTA. Dude, why don't they protest about the MTA? Like you're saying, why don't you protest about stuff that's in your immediate vicinity and control? But also, just don't you have something to do? Don't you have a delicious treat to enjoy? I thought that they had, like Broadway, off-Broadway, all the great movie theaters in New York. I love the movie theaters in New York. The Guggenheim, the Met, the greatest museum on the planet. The Statue of Liberty. I know no New Yorker. I know I hate everything hasn't been to the Statue of Liberty. I know you haven't been to the Statue of Liberty because none of the New Yorkers have been to the Statue of Liberty. We're going to get to this section here. But my producer just sent me this note. Let's see here what Tim Pool's genius mind tweeted. Let's see what he had to say. The U.S. economy about to boom. Tons of free oil heading our way.
It's 90% bullshit, but it's entertaining.
What are you talking about, Tim Pool? What the fuck are you talking about? This idiot has been wrong about everything. About everything. The Civil War thing, everything. He has been wrong about. Where is the free oil coming from, Tim Pool? And these people are such fucking... China had to bring in an oil driller to Lake Maracaibo last year because the infrastructure is so broken. What the fuck are you talking about? It's going to be at least a 2 to 3 year project to even start getting oil out at a consistent rate. Never mind the refineries. Never mind the refineries. Never mind the refineries. Free oil heading our way. It's like, you know what's sad about this is it makes me cry. Oh shit, let's go back to CNN. Let's go back to CNN. Here they're filming inside the station. Let's see this. There we go.
False exercise by the American intelligence. We're on the 4-year anniversary of the war with Russia, where it was supposed to be 4 weeks, showing that their military can't do what the United States just did. In China, they're firing their military heads and states for corruption charges, and they just looked at Air Force, Navy, Intel, and integrated operation. So a lot of these other countries around the world looking at the United States and are taking note of what the United States military pulled off. Put aside the political ramifications, the legal ramifications, the reputational ramifications. A lot of people just saw the American military and intelligence operating at a flawless capability. That's what I think, when I look at that picture, that's a message around the world, just saying something to leaders that are now in their national security apparatuses, Caitlin, are stamping back and going, "What we got to take a score here of what, and a measure of what the United States military pulled off." I do think the second part of that picture, and I'll be real quick on this, basically the pawns for Russia and China have been Syria, Venezuela, Cuba in this situation, and also Iran. And every one of those governments, either the head of state, the country itself, the government is on its back heels, a failed state, or have been deposed in both Syria and Venezuela.
Can you believe Rahm Emanuel here? Just flag waving, loving Donald Trump. Rahm Emanuel, if you're still a Democrat, you might as well just sign up to work at a bordello. Sign up to work at a bordello. Volunteer at a bordello. Rahm Emanuel cheerleading Donald Trump. Look at you, Democrat. Look at you. You're pathetic. You're pathetic. Pathetic. The Democrats are pathetic.
Just a month ago, the United States, the president commuted the sentence of the largest drug narco kingpin from Honduras. So the judge charges here.
Barack Obama's chief of staff is pathetic. If you're a Democrat, pathetic. Pathetic.
It doesn't have a reputation or a capability of doing this. There's a lot of damage done reputationally, but not to the military and intelligence apparatus of the United States, separate from what our government did.
Well, and President Trump was asked about that premise by my colleague Kevin Liptak earlier. The United States' mixed history of when it comes to. But hold on, Rob, because Beth Sander, you're here with me, and I just have got to play this video again. It is basically, I don't think this is a legal term, it's a perp walk that we're watching of Nicolas Maduro here inside the United States custody. The White House has just shared this photo where he appears to say Happy New Year. It sounded like to me, Beth, at the end of this video. As you watch that,
Happy New Year.
What's your reaction to seeing that?
Well, to pick up on Ram's point, I actually think that a lot of this is about showing Venezuelans what is going on and showing this regime that appears they thought that they were going to cooperate, but now they're not.
Happy New Year, dude. Happy New Year. Jeez, bro. The man is this trial is going to be hilarious, man.
Cabello, Padrino, the Interior Minister, the Defense Minister, Rodriguez, the Vice President. I think they also.
All right. Let's go back. Jeez, imagine Rahm Emanuel cheering on Donald Trump. If you're a Democrat, go volunteer at a bordello. Go volunteer at a bordello. Go volunteer at a bordello. I had everything says no, Lou. I've never been to the Statue of Liberty. I knew it. I knew you hadn't been. Why haven't you been to the Statue of Liberty? Why not? You gotta go. All right. We have here Tim Pool. Just a fucking moron, dude. These people don't know anything and they just lie. I saw Robert said maybe the beanie has cut off circulation to his brain cells. I wouldn't be surprised, Robert, because this is a level of stupidity. Free oil heading our way. I'm going to hold you to that, Timmy. I'm going to hold you to that. Let's go here. We want to go to get to Trump today. Yeah, we are done here with what Venezuela's response is. By the way, my producer says that I have to give you permission. We're considering ending Schizo Watch because you have full permission to go schizo. Because at this point, how can you escape the schizophrenia these people keep shoving down your throat? These people are just trying to drive you fucking nuts. Tim Pool is making you a crazy person, and he's ubiquitous. Ben Shapiro is put up in Times Square. The people who are designed to make you crazy are winning. You have full permission to go schizo. Full permission. The former president of Venezuela is saying Happy New Year as being perped walk, and Tim Pool is talking about free oil. You have full permission to go schizo. Full permission. Let's. Jeez, man, it's just ridiculous. No. It's great stuff. We really are in a healthy country. So let's see here. This is President Trump saying that America is going to run Venezuela for a little bit.
We are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about. We want peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela. And that includes many from Venezuela that are now living in the United States and want to go back to their country. It's their homeland. We can't take a chance that somebody else takes over Venezuela that doesn't have the good of the Venezuelan people in mind. We've had decades of that. We're not going to let that happen. We're there now, and what people don't understand, but they understand as I say this, we're there now, but we're going to stay until such time as the proper transition can take place. So we're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it, essentially, until such time as a proper transition can take place.
So this is also what made Nick Fuentes break with Donald Trump. He said, I don't want to build a nation. I don't want to do nation building. Because Donald Trump is saying that America is going to run Venezuela for a little bit. I don't think this is what a lot of people had in mind. Oh, boy. All right. OBS is giving me issues now. I think we might have mentioned a certain country many times. If this continues, I'll have to shut it down and restart it. You know what's funny is Maduro could argue now. Maduro, his whole defense could be basically, how can I be charged by a criminal? He has 36 charges. Donald Trump, how can he charge me with anything? Who is he to do that? We're going to see, man. Saying Happy New Year on the perp walk is really something. It's really something. This is a guy who's pretty funny. Let's go back here. Here again, we have to do the callback to Colombia. Okay, as I told you, Colombia did not stand by. Petro last night was tweeting that this was fucked up, that you shouldn't be doing this to poor old Venezuela. And this morning, Donald Trump says this about Colombia in the press conference.
Mr. President, Colombian President Gustavo Petro, a couple weeks ago, he said he's got to watch his ass. And today, he said he's not concerned about anything happening to him in the aftermath of this operation. So. just what your message is
Well,
about
he
that.
has cocaine mills. He has factories where he makes cocaine. And yeah, I think I stick by my first statement. He's making cocaine. They're sending it into the United States. So he does have to watch his ass.
What I'm wondering is the amount of troops that are off the coast of Venezuela. It's a big amount. Okay. The countries you could attack from there are Cuba, Colombia. I mean, if you really wanted to go to like Trinidad, but there's no hostile government there. Guyana, obviously. Colombia has elections in 2 months, I believe. This is going to be very interesting. I actually have a wedding that I'm supposed to be going to in Colombia. I might cancel that because I'm kind of scared now. If Trump is saying that Petro has to watch his ass and he's willing to do this kind of stuff, all right. Dude, you don't get in bed with these guys, man. Don't get in bed with traitors and just people like this. Here, I actually appreciated this clip because I saw some people saying this is the Monroe Doctrine. Okay. But Donald Trump has done something interesting here, which is that he's finally at least changed the name of it so I don't have to put up with the bad history. Let's see what he had to say of how he justified this kidnapping or extraordinary rendition.
Potentially in league with the cartels operating along our border. All of these actions were in gross violation of the core principles of American foreign policy, dating back more than 2 centuries, and not anymore. All the way back, it dated to the Monroe Doctrines, and the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal, but we've superseded it by a lot. By a real lot. They now call it the Donroe Document. I don't know.
The Donroe Doctrine.
Monroe Doctrine. We sort of forgot about it. It was very important, but we forgot about it. We don't forget about it anymore. Under our night.
The Donroe Doctrine. At least we have a new doctrine. I'm glad they said it. At least they're not actually using the Monroe Doctrine, which was completely different. Now we have the Donroe Doctrine. This is Donald Trump's doctrine, the Donroe Doctrine. Thank you. Maybe people will stop saying stupid shit now. Here we also had another surreal moment. We just had Nicolas Maduro say Happy New Year on a perp walk. Here is Donald Trump saying 6-7.
A long period of time, 6-7 months. We used to have 2, on average 2 a week in Washington.
And here is the CIA director holding back a laugh.
Washington, our capital. We don't have that anymore. A long period of time, 6-7 months. We used to have 2, on average 2 a week in Washington.
It's silly occupied government. How about it? This was a notable moment because here Trump dropped Maria Corina Machado, who was his preferred candidate. She won the Nobel Prize this year. This was supposed to be the president of Venezuela. A lot of people think she came out of nowhere, by the way. I have followed her closely. I have a book about the OAS that mentions her. That was published, I think, like 15 years ago, because she's been in this fight for a long time. She didn't come out of nowhere. She was not well liked by most Venezuelans for a long time. Now she has a little bit more support. But again, I actually do agree with Donald Trump here. I don't think she would make a good president of Venezuela. I don't think she has the support.
Of the location of opposition leader Machado, and have you been in contact with her?
No. We haven't. No, we haven't.
Mr. President,
Do you have any hesitations about Machado?
Mr. President, on Monday.
Oh, I think it would be very tough for her to be the leader. She doesn't have the support within or the respect within the country. She's a very nice woman, but she doesn't have the respect to be the leader.
She doesn't have the respect. She doesn't have the respect. Machado, you're out for now. Let's see. Let's continue. What else has he said? Oh, we already saw this part here. Here, this is another part where Trump triples down, says he's not afraid of boots on the ground.
Mr. President, does the U.S. running the country mean that U.S. troops will be on the ground? How will that work?
Well, you know, they always say boots on the ground. Oh, so we're not afraid of boots on the ground if we have to have. We had boots on the ground last night at a very high level, actually. We're not afraid of it. We don't mind saying it. But we're going to make sure that that country is run properly. We're not doing this in vain. This is a very dangerous attack. This is an attack that could have gone very, very badly. Could have gone very badly. We could have lost a lot of people last night. We could have lost a lot of dignity. We could have lost a lot of equipment. The equipment is less important, but we could have lost a lot. And we're going to make sure that this is proper.
So boots on the ground may be coming. What else have we got here? We have our super straight, super ripped, jacked Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, explaining the Don Roe doctrine, okay? What is the Don Roe doctrine? Why is Nicolas Maduro in this predicament?
Nicolas Maduro had his chance, just like Iran had their chance, until they didn't and until he didn't. He effed around and he found out.
If you F around, you find out. Thank you to our super straight, super buff warriors. The super straight army is back. If you F around, you find out. FAFO. This is the new way of doing war. FAFO. All right. Here's Marco Rubio. Enrique Kissinger giving his speech.
This is a president of action. Like, I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. And now, if you don't know, now you know. Because this is the way it's going to play out. And I think people need to understand that this is not a president that just talks and does letters and press conferences. And, you know, if he says he's serious about something, he means it. And this is something that was a direct threat to the national interest of the United States. And the president addressed it.
You have to have a little bit of the fanfare for Trump in this kind of thing. Otherwise, he doesn't take you seriously. We can skip this. Yeah, dude, because we're not running low on time. But this is pretty cool to watch here. Donald Trump posted this with Fortunate Son playing. These were the Chinooks. This is when I knew shit was getting real. When footage started coming out, and my uncle saw these, the Chinooks. He was like, dude, what the fuck are these fucking helicopters with the two rotors? And I was like, dude, those are the ones that they use to drop people in. They're not to drop bombs. They're going in. And he posted this with Fortunate Son. Very appropriate. Ooh, that red, white, and blue. So obviously people were angry about that. I'm sure Clearance Clearwater Revival is going to sue. They'll probably have to take this down at some point. But as you can see, this is real boomer hours, dude. I was doing real Indio hours, real Indian hours, staying up late. Real boomer hours. Trump out here posting these memes. All right, we might save this for another day. What's important here? We have to look at, we're good here. We're good on this, actually. Let's get here to Zohran. Zohran has a history of talking about Maduro that's very limited. Here he is talking to Jorge Ramos about him.
I wonder if you're reluctant to call them dictators in Cuba and Venezuela.
I'm not reluctant. I just haven't thought about them that often. I'll be honest with you. I think that Maduro's government is one of repression. There's no question about it. And I think
it's in Cuba.
Sorry?
And also it's happening in Cuba since 1959.
And I think that the repression that, whether we're speaking about Cuban New Yorkers or Venezuelan New Yorkers, that they have had to live through is a repression that stands in a clear contrast from what our vision is.
So I thought that Zohran, I'm going to be honest, I've been a little disappointed so far. I thought, given that he had said this on the campaign, I don't think we covered this when it happened, but I saw it. Zohran was going to be the mayor of New York. I really thought that's what he was going to do. Just be the mayor of New York. Listen, these international issues, I can't affect them. It doesn't matter. But Zohran is in a position where he's now the leader of the left, and he's of the DSA. The DSA and Code Pink and those types of organizations are openly pro-Maduro, or at least anti-U.S. intervention. Now, the DSA, I think, takes a hardcore line internally where they say, oh, Maduro is a good guy, actually. You shouldn't intervene on that basis. But there is a soft side as well, which says we shouldn't intervene because it's bad. And today, Zohran came out and released this statement. And he also spoke about it. Let's read it here. This is after the invasion, the news comes out. I was briefed this morning on the U.S. military capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, as well as their planned imprisonment in federal custody here in NYC. Unilaterally attacking a sovereign nation is an act of war and a violation of federal and international law. This blatant pursuit of regime change doesn't just affect those abroad. It directly impacts New Yorkers, including tens of thousands of Venezuelans who call this city home. My focus is their safety and the safety of every New Yorker, and my administration will continue to monitor the situation and issue relevant guidance. And here he is talking about it. No, we don't have it. That's another thing we have to show. Why is Zohran even commenting on this? Why? Every establishment Democrat and establishment Republican has fallen in line behind Trump. I'm not saying that Zohran has to do that, but why? Why would you do this? I understand that it's affecting your city somewhat because they're bringing him in. However, honestly, that probably brings you money. There's going to be people there's going to be people going up to New York to get a peek at the prison that Maduro is in. You're going to get it's going to be a Venezuelan pilgrimage point. And look, I'm not saying he's wrong about what he's saying. This is a valid opinion. It's fine. I just don't understand why he would put this out. Listen, if you think like We Have People's Press was a big supporter, I understand that you want to make a stand. You want to be a badass. You want to say who you really are, say what you really think, be that guy. But is this the right moment for it? Is this really the smartest thing you can do? And it also opens you up for attack because here we see Letitia James, the AG, who's very happy with this as a lawyer, I assume. Nicolas Maduro was a brutal dictator who caused the people of Venezuela pain and suffering. My thoughts and prayers are with the people of Venezuela here in New York and abroad. I'm not saying Zohran should have said this, okay? I'm not saying that Zohran should have said this. But this is such an easy layup that you're leaving for Letitia James here, who Trump hates. She's not doing that for that. She's doing that to say, look, I'm going to be honest here, okay? I'm going to be honest. Thoughts and prayers are with the people of Venezuela. That's what you should say, in my opinion. Thoughts and prayers. Honestly, I wouldn't even address it. Honestly, the funniest thing would be for Zohran to go out there and meet Nicolas Maduro. Like, that would be funny. That would actually be funny. He goes out there and he brings out, Zohran comes in here and he says, yo, dude, I've listened to that rap record. Listen to mine. And he plays him his mixtape. You know, that would be funny. That would be Baudrillardi and it would be cool, you know? But to do this, I just think it alienates him and it makes him very easy to attack from the other side, which is his own side. Letitia James, this is something that this is the main tweet, right? And she has these following ones, but where she's trying to couch it a little bit. And she's not thanking Trump directly, which is smart. But was this worth the political capital? And here he is addressing it in person. Let's see him do that here. I'm going to have to resize this damn thing. Let me do this here so you can see it. There we go. Let me make this proper. CNN fucked us up. All right, let's do that. Let's do that. And let's do that. Because he spoke on it today while he was speaking about, I believe it was rent that he was supposed to be talking about. And he got into this. How do I got it. Do that. Boop. Actually, I can just full screen this thing. Do that. There we go.
You said in a statement earlier today that you had been briefed on the situation with Maduro in Venezuela and soon to be New York. Were you briefed by the president? Have you spoken to the president about this matter?
I was briefed by my first deputy mayor, my chief of staff, my chief counsel, the police commissioner, as well as other members of my team. I called the president and spoke with him directly to register my opposition to this act and to make clear that it was an opposition based on being opposed to a pursuit of regime change, to the violation of federal and international law, and a desire to see that be consistent each and every day. I registered my opposition, I made it clear, and we left it at that.
And furthermore, I would say, look, man, a lot of people say, oh, you know, Venezuelans are a very particular group. They're a very particular type. Their vote is going to be Republican because, which first of all, I would disagree. I think Venezuelans are fundamentally liberals at the end of the day. But regardless, they're going to vote Republican because they hate Maduro. What this is damaging, in my opinion, is that actually most Latin Americans are pleased with this. And it's not for the reason you think. The reason they are, I have been on Chilean Twitter, on Peruvian Twitter, on Mexican Twitter, all day, Argentinian Twitter, and they're saying, finally, these people can go back to their country. I was in Chile when the immigration started towards it, okay, of Venezuelans. And Chileans are fed up with it. I'm half Chilean. I can say it. We're not the same people, okay? I know to a lot of Americans we are. We're not, okay? You want to hear real racism? Put on soccer when it's the national teams of Latin America, okay? That's when you'll hear real racism. We're not all friendly. We're not all lovey-dovey. Maybe around the white folk we'll be a little bit more united, okay? But most people in Latin America are incredibly pleased with this move because they want Venezuelans to leave their country. They want them out. And this transfers over to the U.S., where a lot of people, maybe the Venezuelan population isn't huge, Mexicans don't like Venezuelans in Mexico. They don't like that. They want them to go back to their country. They don't even hate Maduro. They just want them to go back. And they know if they get rid of Maduro, there's a possibility of it. So as a political thing, I get it. The international law, he had it with Bibi as well. But I just don't see how this benefits him in terms of ascending and getting more power. You know, I'm not trying to hate or anything, but this is very serious. Zohran was an expert wizard campaigner, and here he's going super serious in a way that I'm not sure is beneficial to him. Let's catch up with the chat here real quick. I hate everything that says Trump, stop glazing me, Rubio. I thought Mamdani comment on the situation was stupid by him because Bibi is going to be in New York and he's not going to do anything. Venezuelans in New York are happy. That's the other thing, dude. I'm sure the Venezuelans in New York are happy. And this includes the poor, the marginal, as we call them in Spanish, the malandros, which I saw in Times Square. All those people want to go back. They actually do want to go back. Last night, people were saying, oh, they're not going to go back. Dude, my parents are going to go back. If this clears up, my parents would want to go back. They actually would. Okay. I'm not saying I would go back. I was born here. I love America. But I would at least spend time there. People want to go. It's a beautiful place. People like it. They actually do like it. And people have been forced to leave. Some politically because of political differences with the government. Some just because lack of medicine, lack of resources. And they want to go back. And the people here are happy that this is happening. I'm just giving it to you straight. You want to meet Venezuelans that are not happy about this? You can talk to the Bolivarian Circle of Miami, which is like 30 old guys who are still holding it down since 1999. Bolivarian circles were these groups that Chavez started to disseminate propaganda. Those are the only people that are happy, that are not happy with this move. Your average Cuban, your average Venezuelan, your average Mexican, your average Honduran, your average Chilean, they are happy because there will be less stress on their economies back home because these Venezuelans will get the fuck out of their country. Colombians have been complaining about this for years. When I was in Chile, I saw a Venezuelan guy selling chicha. It's a delicious drink. It's a rice milk. It's better than horchata. Horchata is garbage, okay? Sorry to the Mexicans. It's not very good. And people were pissed at the Venezuelans. He was telling me, dude, people don't like me. They don't like us because our women, they're too hot. They come in here and Chilean women can't compete, and it's a problem. And I know that sounds silly, but it's true. Okay? They want us out. We're causing divorces. We're taking low-paying jobs that they want. And I was like, I get it, bro. Put the chicha in the cup, bro. Come on. Let's move it along. I get it, but move it along. I would talk to shopkeepers and employees and they'd be like, dude, these Venezuelans fucked my life up. I used to work at the bread store. Now it's all Venezuelans. It's just a simple truth. Simple truth. Robert says Mondami's a one-term mayor. Let's see, Robert. I'm still hopeful. I want to see cool shit happen. Schofield says, how does it affect New Yorkers? I don't see it. Most Venezuelans in New York are in favor of removing him. Exactly. Even people that like Chavez are in favor of removing Maduro. Even people who like Chavez, for the most part. Not good politics, in my view. People's Press says, yes, double down on your position. It's great. I can see how it plays to a certain audience, People's Press. I won't shit on it, but it really depends on what group you're trying to capture. Because you're trying to capture a wider group. You can stay talking to the DSA. I'm not saying you have to be compromised. As I always say, lie to win. Winning, there's no judgment in winning. Lie. So that's my criticism of it. Ephra says, do you have family in Venezuela? What do they think? Ephra, my family in Venezuela that's left, because most of them died. But whoever the people that are left, they want the government changed. They absolutely want the government changed. They're not. I think that they are pretty not. They're not pro intervention, but they'll take anything they can get. Is the way they see it. They'll say, dude, I don't care as long as this guy gets out. They are just desperate for a new government. The family I have left, there's very few young people. The young people all left. The older people are the ones that are left behind. And it just sucks for them, dude. My cousin is a young lady. She's probably in her 30s. She wants the government gone. She has 2 kids to feed. She has 2 kids to feed. And every day is a fucking struggle because everything is short. You're short on milk. You're short on food. And, you know, you can blame the embargo or the sanctions as much as you want. At the end of the day, it doesn't make a difference to someone who can't find food. They don't give a shit. They're just saying there's a problem here. That's their perspective. I completely understand it. It's a material perspective, and it's one that many of us would take if we were struggling, you know? People's Press says, don't say that about horchata. I don't like it. It makes me thirsty. It's not my jam, dude. It's not my jam. I don't like it. Chicha's a lot better. We got to cover Bannon here because Bannon had some interesting coverage. And 112 says, what are the good-looking women at again, Leo? Yes, Venezuela is also known for a beautiful woman. You want to do that to yourself, you go ahead. You know? If you want to do that to yourself. If you want to do that to yourself, you go ahead. At least it's not Colombian. But if you want to do that to yourself, get ready. Get ready, big guy. But you want to go there now, I see? Yeah, if you want to go there, it's definitely worth checking out. I Had Everything says Mamdani did create a new office where he's basically gave the DSA and their friends jobs. I don't know, dude. My hopes for Zohran are to destroy the Democratic establishment because they're evil, right? It's like my hopes for anyone like James Fishback. I'm like, dude, as long as you can damage the establishment, I'm happy. That's cool. But with this kind of play, it's like, dude, are you trying to damage the establishment or are we playing another game here? Because if it's a game of being a purist and having a great time and, you know, all your friends are friends, whatever. Like, let's see here. Lopez Obrador spoke, my producer says. Let's see what he has to say. Lopez Obrador, one of my favorite presidents, honestly. I really like this guy. Let's see. I am retired from politics, former president of Mexico, old commie type, but he was a good president. Because of that, I am retired from politics, but my libertarian convictions prevent me from staying silent in the face of the arrogant assault on the sovereignty of the people of Venezuela and the kidnapping of their president. In Latin America, as in Europe, libertarian does not mean what it means in the U.S. In the U.S., libertarians are usually like right-wing free market types. Libertarian means something very different, so don't be confused. Neither Bolivar nor Lincoln would accept the United States government acting as a world tyranny. President Trump, do not fall into self-complacency or listen to the siren song. Tell the hawks to go to hell. You have the capacity to act with practical judgment. Do not forget that today's ephemeral victory can be tomorrow's resounding defeat. Politics is not imposition. Remember that, quote, respect for the rights of others is peace, end quote, as Benito Juarez taught us in the 19th century. I am Mexican with great pride, but also Latin American. I unconditionally support my president, Claudia Sheinbaum. For now, I am not sending you a hug, AMLO. AMLO has a very good relationship with President Trump, so I'm not surprised to see him comment. They got along very well. And that's a very famous Benito Juarez quote. I actually saw it. If you see where they killed Maximilian, Emperor Maximilian in Mexico, you can see that. So interesting stuff. I don't think Trump is going to give a shit because he's no longer president. He doesn't really care about that. Let's see what Steve Bannon said here. Let's see what he had to say. This was very, very interesting. He interviewed Jack Posobiec, who normally is an idiot, but I guess Steve Bannon makes these idiots a little smarter in their takes.
You had been on here for over a year talking about this. We didn't get the bad hombres. So it looks like a very specific decision was made not to take out some of the worst elements of his regime. How do you think this plays out?
Steve Bannon asking the only guy asking right questions. I don't like him anymore. I've met him, and when I met him, I liked him. I don't like him anymore, but he's asking the right questions. Wow, it took Steve Bannon.
Well, I think that it's, personally, I think that it seems to be, to me, and this is just my analysis, that the strategy is remove Maduro, but the rest of the regime stays in place. And hopefully then they get a more pliant regime, a regime that is more willing to cut these deals with the United States, return those oil flows back into the United States, into the world energy supply, but with the corollary being that you will cut ties with China and Iran and push them out. Because Venezuela has been the base of operations for China, Iran, and Russia. So it's been the base of operations for Chinese intelligence, Russian intelligence, and so many Chinese commercial operations, which are spreading throughout the Caribbean. The People's Republic of China is taking over the Caribbean Sea and even elements of the Gulf of America. And people need to understand that, from the Panama Canal all the way up. And Venezuela has been, as well as Cuba, have been their key benefactors. So I wouldn't be, by the way, I would not be surprised if the Cubans are waking up right now saying, get President Trump on the phone because we don't want to talk to that Rubio guy.
This is not true. It's more complicated than Jack Posobiec makes it seem. It's a good take. But first of all, let's address his take that what's happening here is that they want to keep the nominal name of the PSUV, the ruling party of Venezuela. They want them to be in charge, but they want them to trade oil. Maduro's already made this offer. So that would imply that it's a personal beef with Maduro, and they want to keep this regime in place. However, you have bounties on these people's heads. So how are you going to do that in a way that makes sense? I don't see it happening. But secondly, China does not control Latin America. It does not. It's a contentious relationship. Cuba and China have not been able to cooperate on a single train between Havana and Varadero in 15 years. They've been saying they were going to build this train 15 years, and they can't do it because Cuba is too retarded and they don't know how to actually build anything. China is supremely frustrated with Cuba, and they have pulled back significantly. They're not in the Panama Canal. They're not building the Nicaragua Canal. That's not happening. Although I think it'd be cool to build the Nicaragua Canal. It's not happening. So whatever. At least there's some gray matter in this take. It's not stupid. And let's see him here. Here he's talking to Oscar Ramirez. Hang on, right? Yeah, Oscar Ramirez, who is from Real America's Voice. And this was an interesting take here because they're actually addressing the chicken and the elephant in the room, which is what I was asking. You're leaving two guys behind that actually matter.
When the president says we're going to run Venezuela for a while, that shocks people. Your thoughts?
Well, a lot of the people, the American people, do not know that the Venezuelan country was run by American companies, and it was particularly run by the American people. And then socialism came over and completely destroyed that country.
This is not true. The oil companies were nationalized in the democratic period in the 50s. This is not true. It's in 1960. I forget the year. This is not true. This is not true. This is not true. This is not.
Now, this is an enormous accomplishment, Steve. This is a historical accomplishment. I have suffered a lot of the consequences with these people. We have seen them die in the middle of the jungle. We have seen them drown in the middle of the jungle, running away from a regime and a dictator and a narco-terrorist that is Nicolas Maduro. This is historic. Never in history has ever happened like something like this. Donald Trump has accomplished something that it will mark history for the rest of time in Latin America. And it is a complete change. Now they need to go after, and this is one of the most important things, they need to go after Diosdado Cabello and also Padrino Lopez, that they're in charge of the defense of justice in the part of Venezuela.
This is absolutely true. If you want to get Venezuela under American control, you have to go after these two. That's completely true.
Those are the ones that also they're running this regime, that they're part of the Cartel de los Soles, that they're part of the fractions of dangerous of Tren de Aragua. And I said to you, Steve, when it was last week, when I was there in the borders of Venezuela, I said there's high tensions on these borders. There's a huge deployment of the National Guard of Venezuela through these particular borders. There's high tension between the people. They are basically telling the citizens of Venezuela, if you have something in your phone that is against Nicolas Maduro, you will be charged with terrorism and traitors to your country, up to 30 years in prison. So a lot of the people knew that something was going to happen. And guess what? This is what just, the capture of Nicolas Maduro was just a historical event, Steve.
Where can people get you over the weekend? We got a punch here at the top of the hour. Where do people go and get you over the weekend, Oscar? We'll have you back on Monday.
Oscar Blue Ramirez all around, sir. Real America's Voice News. And also just wanted to.
So, good take. That's what I'm curious about. Oscar Ramirez, bad history, but good take. And that's what anyone who actually cares about this issue is wondering. How are you going to deal with these two guys that are left? Actually, it's more like 10 people that the U.S. has bounties on. How are you going to build something if you still have bounties on people? Let's end here real quick with COPE. COPE. I think that this is important to look at because I would like to see, we already saw Thomas Massey, COPE. Let's start here with this. I want to show this because it's time that we see some COPE. Okay. Let's see what this person had to say here. If Donald Trump showed anything, is that U.S. military action. They still have that George Bush the father in them. Let's see here. Aiden Simardone. This is so you know that people are retarded, despite all of their credentials. Geopolitical analyst and immigration lawyer, masters in global affairs. If you put your masters in your bio, you're a moron. Words in the Jacobin, Newsweek, the Cradle Media, smartest man in Canada. Thank you, smartest man in Canada. Please explain to me how a war with Venezuela is going to fail, even though it obviously didn't.
Here are 3 reasons why Donald Trump's war with Venezuela will fail. The first is simply geography. I think the best comparison to make is with Iraq, because of course the United States did invade Iraq in 2003. They were able to topple Saddam Hussein, but they were unsuccessful as they had to fight an insurgency for the next 8 years. Well, Iraq would look like a walk in the park compared to an invasion of Venezuela. Venezuela is roughly twice as big as Iraq, and it is far more mountainous.
Venezuela, for anyone that doesn't just read the sizes of countries, all of this here is basically uninhabited. Everything here. Almost all of this. It's a couple of Pemones, which are Indians, and they're cool. They're actually cool. They'll take you to the Amazon, brother. They'll get you high. They're cool. This here is like uninhabited. This is dense forest. No one lives here. This is where drug traffickers are, where like guerrillas were sometimes. This is uninhabitable jungle. The only part of Venezuela that matters for an invasion is actually on the coast. It's literally just this. Now, there are mountains in Caracas. That's true. However, it's almost like, does the United States have Predator drones? Oh, I guess they do. So what are you talking about? People will read the CIA World Factbook and think they're a genius.
In addition, at the time of the Iraq invasion, Iraq had many enemies at its borders. This includes countries that it had previously fought wars against, like Iran, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia, as well as major U.S. allies, like NATO member Turkey, as well as Jordan to the west. In contrast, Venezuela actually has very good relations with 2 of the 3 countries.
No one lives here in Brazil. No one lives here in Colombia. Oh, thank you for the super chat, 112. Thank you, sir or ma'am. I appreciate you, sir. Get out of Taiwan yesterday. Who, China? Leave China? Yeah. If you're Taiwanese, I'd be booking a flight. That's. Thank you, sir, for the super chat. I appreciate it. No one lives here. This is a porous border here. Colombia is not going to send troops. The ELN is a ragtag group of retards. And guess what? He didn't mention Guyana. Guyana hates Venezuela because Guyana, if I'm getting real Venezuelan nationalists here, Guyana is not a real country. It's a part of Venezuela, okay? So they hate Venezuela and they have really good deals with Western oil companies. So they would not come to the defense of Venezuela. And they matter because they have good relationships with England. Also, the ABC Islands are here, which are owned by the Netherlands, who are not allies of Venezuela. You have Trinidad, who hates Venezuela as well. So this is irrelevant bullshit.
Neighbors, that being Colombia and Brazil. For instance, in Brazil, there's also actually this group called the Landless Rural Workers Movement. It has 1.5 million members, and they have actually pledged that if the United States tries to invade Venezuela, they will form their own militia or brigade to then go and help the Venezuelans.
They are landless workers. That means they don't have training or guns or money. What the fuck are you talking about?
Venezuelan government. The second reason why a war with Venezuela would fail is because the existing sanctions against Venezuela have actually been insufficient in creating the instability that the United States desires. When the United States invaded Iraq, sanctions had pretty much destroyed the country. The Iraq army lacked the necessary equipment to fight against the United States, and northern mountainous regions were already controlled by Kurdish people rather than Saddam Hussein himself. And as these sanctions were going on, there were very few countries that were actually willing to trade or help out Iraq. In contrast, while the sanctions on Venezuela have been devastating, they failed to create the same level of chaos. Yes, there have been attempts to overthrow the government in Venezuela, but these have also failed. And countries have stepped in to help. For instance, Iran actually sent oil to Venezuela, and there are rumors that Russia has actually sent in hypersonic or at least very powerful missiles to the
Venezuela is flying F-16s from the 90s. This is retarded. This is stupid. Russia pulled back the Wagner Group. Iran is not sending weapons. They built an Islamic cultural center, which is probably a spy post. No one here is sending weapons. No one here. Venezuela's army is decimated. It is. That's why they can blow up boats with impunity. This is the sanctions. They haven't created chaos. It is the economic mismanagement of the country that has made the army one of the most ineffective in the whole world. It's not North Korea, folks. It's a tin pot dictator in Latin America.
Venezuelan army. So the Venezuelan army and the Venezuelan people would actually be a lot more able to fight against the United States government compared to what happened in Iraq. The final thing is also that this war is simply unpopular amongst the American public. The Iraq War was unfortunately actually quite popular, with both Republicans and Democrats supporting it in the hysterical aftermath of the 9/11 attacks. In contrast, war with Venezuela is not popular really at all. 45%.
And who gives a shit? Was war popular with Syria? Was it popular with Libya? No. How is this irrelevant, especially with the Trump administration? Trump doesn't care what's popular anymore. How is this relevant?
Of Americans oppose overthrowing Venezuelan President Maduro, while just 17% are in favor. And even amongst Republicans, it's not even a majority. It's only 34% who are in support of this. And actually, public opinion does matter. That's why they always engage in propaganda and try to get the public on its side. So the fact that's unpopular would make the war a lot more difficult to carry out. So there you have it. Those are why this war will fail.
And guess what? It didn't fail. It didn't fail. Imagine putting your master's in global affairs in your bio and you're this wrong. You're this stupid. You're this stupid. I don't even hate the Jacobin. I like some of their articles on film. But imagine being this fucking stupid and you expect to be taken seriously. Fucking idiot, man. A fucking idiot. Efra says, Leo, you're thinking of short term and a long term. I think this guy has some good points. Efra, the thing is, look, what is he saying? He's talking about geography. People are not going to hunker down and fight this government. There's no like Nazi werewolf type thing in Venezuela. Maduro talks about that. That's not going to happen. People are, they're done with the country. The country, in addition to that, it is decimated, but there is a high capacity for rapid reindustrialization. There will be money to be made. People will be able to get jobs in mining, which has been decimated. If you go, the mining industry in Venezuela is a disaster because of lack of resources. Any gold you buy that's of Venezuelan origin, they throw mercury in the water of the river and it rises gold. Okay. When you have real tractors, real things doing stuff, it matters. Venezuela actually has a strong chemical industry that can 10x. Chemicals are so important. Okay. You also have tourism quite clearly. So I really have trouble seeing how this is going to be bad, you know? Effort says, I understand that you hate Maduro. I don't hate Maduro. I would not say that I hate Maduro. But the neighbors near Venezuela might not feel comfortable. The thing is, the neighbors near Venezuela, I understand what you're saying, Effort. I really do. But there is no way for these people to complain anymore. Because Petro has completely cucked the United States. He has an election coming up, which he'll probably lose because the United States will probably rig it for the right-wing candidate. I'm not saying that's good or bad. That's just what's going to happen. Brazil has Lula. Lula has proven to be impotent on the world stage. He has talked a big game, but he doesn't really do anything. The only people who could get mad is like Cuba, right? Cuba can't really do it. No, actually, Cuba does have pretty good intelligence capacity. But without Venezuelan energy, what can they do? Nicaragua, what is Nicaragua going to do? Nicaragua is actually a stable country. Nicaragua has American investment. It has a strong currency board, a strong monetary system. I don't think that when push comes to shove, they want to stay in this fight. Who else would be a problem? I guess member states of ALBA, like St. Kitts and Nevis, they don't give a shit. So look, while it could be a quagmire, it's possible, Ephra. And I'm not saying this from a place of hate. I really don't hate Maduro. I'm indifferent. I just don't see the scenario where it is a quagmire. The only quagmire, I'll give you this, Ephra, is if Venezuela, this would be unfortunate, and it probably will happen. It's going to be a huge problem for them in terms of the land that they have lost to Guyana. They'll never get that back, even though they voted for it with Maduro. What is the other reason he gave? He gave geography. He gave the sanctions. Sanctions will be removed and the economy will explode. And the unpopularity of the war, if it hurts Trump, Trump doesn't really care. And I would say, seeing the reactions to the Venezuela extraction of Maduro, people are not angry. It's a subset of people. I've seen the spirit of George Bush and Dick Cheney return to the American people. Saw a bunch of right-wingers saying, "Oh, this is actually, if we can do it this way, then it'll work." But I don't see. Schofield says Fidel went into the mountains to regroup. Can't really regroup in the jungle, right? And also Fidel had. You won't find this online. You have to talk to some real Cubans to know this. There was a covert operation called Operation Water Buffalo. And I actually know the guy whose father facilitated this. He was the Venezuelan ambassador to Cuba. You have to read this book called The Fourth Floor, which explains how the war within Cuba actually happened. America was playing both sides of that war, and they actually got a lot of funding and money and food and weapons to Cuba through Venezuela. And they got them to Fidel. At the same time, they had also sanctioned Batista. So the Cuban Revolution isn't just regrouping, it's also having a bunch of actual support from other people that care. And it was the United States. So, And as People's Press says that the ELN operates and hides there with Cuban tactics. Absolutely. Absolutely they do. But the ELN is not a significant player, in my opinion. In my opinion. The ELN, at the end of the day, all these groups are just drug traffickers at this point. And this includes the right-wing ones. The, what are they called? The ANCs of Colombia, the Self-Defense Forces of Colombia. They're right-wing, and they're just drug traffickers in the mountains. These people realize there's a lot more money in drug trafficking than doing this guerrilla bullshit. Dude, my mom had cousins that joined the guerrillas, the ELN and all this shit. They were reading the Green Book, Velasco's book, The Dictator of Peru. The only lefty dictator of Latin America in that period during Operation Condor. So I just don't see them as a big player. But Ephra, I respect your opinion. And I hope you're wrong. Mostly because I'm not even saying this out of a hate of Maduro. I just would like to see people have a better life over there, in Venezuela, dude, like if you need to stop having children, there's no birth control. You have to go get sterilized. I know people that have had to do that. My aunt was almost kidnapped at one point because people are desperate for money. And the Venezuelan thug is a real thug. He's scary. They'll kidnap you. My dad's buddy was kidnapped with his girlfriend. They were held for a few days. They beat the shit out of both of them. It's just pretty bad. It's not a great place to live. So for that reason, I hope that things actually do improve. Let's continue with Cope. Here we have Haas, who I'm actually a fan of. I like Haas. I think Haas is a cool guy. He's interesting. Here he's calling on the American people to demonstrate against the criminal aggression of the U.S. regime.
The American Communist Party condemns in the strongest possible terms the wanton and naked act of aggression by the U.S. regime in violating the basic principle of the right to self-determination of nations for the people of Venezuela in kidnapping their president, Nicolas Maduro. To be clear, this criminal act of aggression is not only a message of the U.S. regime to the people of the world, that it can do as it pleases by the beneficence of brute force alone, and that it has no need of even justifying itself under any moral pretenses. It's a signal to the American people themselves that it rules by lawless force alone. That if the American people
And this is where I'm like, the Chad Trump meme versus the Virgin Haas. Look, I like you, Haas. I think you have interesting stuff to say. I actually really like his takes on China. But calling on the American people to protest against this, what are we doing here? We're just going to get people to waste their weekend. Oh, wait. I don't want people caught up in this stuff. Go have a good weekend. I promise you, Marco Rubio will not care if you're protesting on Biscayne Boulevard or wherever people protest in New York. They're not going to care. Absolutely not going to care. They're not going to give a shit. That's some cope. I everything says most of the left failed us on this. On, you mean like intervention? I would say so. Efra says, I respect your opinion too. I was actually trying to figure out what is really happening. That's what we're all doing here, Efra, right? I mean, that's what we're doing. The crowdsourcing is here. Whenever I reread the chats at the end of the night, I'm very happy to see that we have some smart minds in here that are trying to figure it out. Really appreciate you, Efra. I Had Everything says, I wonder if they would take the same take if China did something like this. I'll be honest, man. I was not exactly displeased with China's actions in Hong Kong when they happened. I was more political back then because I was like, it's their territory. I don't understand what we're doing here. What's the big issue? You know, it's their territory. They're just asserting it. It's kind of like when Israel finally got the capital moved to Jerusalem of the United States. Whether we like it or not, that's their territory. You know, they're flexing. They're flexing their nuts on everyone. So I don't know. I don't know if they'd be. China tends to, and Russia, they tend to play around with international law to make things seem or be legal in the best way, in the best way for themselves. The Crimea invasion by Putin, people like to confuse this. The referendum they did was after the invasion, but they play it off like it was before, and it's smart because it makes you look important. It makes you look like you actually followed international law. So I don't know if they would take the same view if China did it, but dude, if China takes Taiwan, it would be really bad for the whole world. I will say that in terms of, dude, like, I get it. If you're a Chinese nationalist and you want Taiwan to be part of China, I get it. Taiwan is not a real country. Look, man, if you're from a fake country like Kosovo or Taiwan, that's fine. I respect you, but you got to admit it's a fake country. Okay. It's not a real country. It's like Panama. It's not a real country. But anyway, what I'm saying is that if Taiwan were to be invaded by China and they fuck it up, dude, all of the chips that are made in Taiwan, that's not like a random thing. They have drilled so deep into the ground in order to make these chips, because you have to be very deep to do the level of engineering they're doing, because they're actually working with plasmas, not actual solids, to build some of these chips. And that would really, really fuck up your day, man. It would really fuck up your day. If China were able to invade and keep it all going perfectly with the same experts, it'd be something, but no one else has Taiwan's capacity. TMSC is just, it's a monster. Efra says electronics will go fucking expensive. China invades Taiwan. Exactly. And Iron Hammer says China trying to take Taiwan would not be the same as USA as well. Right, because China's way of taking Taiwan is through propaganda mostly. They're smart the way they do it. 112 says lawless force, Article 2 of the Constitution, Trump will yield. Yes, Trump will yield. That's how silly it sounds, right? Let's read Dave Smith, another famous coper here. Well, this was the quickest regime change I've ever seen or remember reading about. I have to admit, I'm surprised and frankly impressed that they got Maduro so quickly. A couple of things that I think are important to remember here. This whole thing was sold on lies, like all wars. This was never about drugs, and all you have to do is look up the percentage of drugs that come from Venezuela to know that Trump overthrew a sovereign government without authorization from Congress for reasons that he won't tell the American people, none of whom wanted this war. The most important question is what comes next, and it's a question DC is famous for ignoring. In the case of Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Yemen, it was a disaster despite all of the war hawks immediately celebrating the success. I hope what comes next is better for the people of Venezuela and the region, but I'm not optimistic. These events have a tendency to destabilize, and unlike the Middle East and North Africa, this is in our backyard, and we will pay a steeper price if the results are another destroyed country. Dave Smith, I thought that you voted for Donald Trump. I thought you endorsed Donald Trump. I thought that's what happened. Dave Smith. I thought we were Trump endorsers. I thought we broke with all of our libertarian principles to vote for Trump. What's going on? What's going on, Davey Smith? These people, man. Here we have Caleb. I'm kind of a fan of Caleb, but I don't think you should do this. I like Caleb. Caleb's a funny guy. He's one of these the leader of one of these communist groups in the US, and he went out here to harass some Venezuelan exiles.
You all should be ashamed of yourself. Your own people are going to be the next Iraqi refugees. Millions of your own people are going to die, and you're cheering for the death of your own people. You're cheering for the death of Americans like me are going to die. They're cheering for the death of their own people. Shame on you. You're traitors to your country. You're traitors to your country. You're traitors. They're murderers, traitors to their country, celebrating the death of their own people. Millions of people are going to die. Venezuelans are going to die. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you. War, you're cheering for the death of Americans. Americans like me are going to die on the streets of Venezuela. Shame on you. I don't want Americans like me to die so the bankers can get rich. Shame on you.
Now, the problem for Caleb here, even though I like him, is that you cannot rage bait a Venezuelan. You can't. You can't rage bait a Venezuelan, dude. We are the most ironic people in the world. You can't rage bait a Venezuelan. You can't do it. And I get it, but come on, dude. Why are you going to shout at people who are celebrating something? You know, why are you going to do that? I think it's almost time to end, and we got to end with the GOATs, Valentina Gomez, who had a reaction. Let's see what Valentina Gomez had to say about this.
To all the presidents and dictators around the world, now you know what happens when you mess with the United States. Diplomacy is actually very simple. You can either learn the easy way or the hard way. Y se los digo en español, para todos los jefes de Estado, ya saben lo que pasa cuando se meten con Estados Unidos. Y la diplomacia es muy simple, o aprenden a las buenas o a las malas. Que viva la libertad, carajo.
Valentina, the gift that keeps on giving. I thought we were talking about the rapist terrorist Muslims. I thought we were anti-war. Valentina's another good signal because it seems like she agrees with Bibi on everything. And Bibi is the guy running the whole world right now. He's a genius. So keep your eyes on Valentina. This was one of her more tame videos. Let's catch up with the chat. Let's get out of here. Let's catch up with the chat. Sorry it was a messy stream. It was a messy stream because I've never done one of these emergency streams where you have to go look at the live stuff, you know? Like, comment, and subscribe, everyone, by the way. It's literally free to like, comment, and subscribe, and it really helps the channel grow a lot. Consider becoming a member on YouTube or Patreon. We'll get into that after this. Schofield says, outrage doesn't work in this day and age. Absolutely not. Outrage is just, you're making a fool of yourself by being outraged. Never get angry. Ironhammer Forge says, China trying to take Taiwan will not, we read that one. Things will be better in Venezuela. I do think it would be very different to how Taiwan is done. And I think that Taiwan will be done over the course of our lifetimes just through propaganda. It won't really be violent. Ephra says, it's thousands of processes to generate a single chip. Absolutely. My dad, who's an engineer, one day he walked me through it. He's like, dude, you don't understand how hard it is to make these chips. You have to be literally hundreds of feet under the earth to do it. If you're not there, you cannot work with these plasmas because there's too much vibrations. Crazy stuff. People's Press says, China has already done this without an invasion to silver price. Oh. Iron Hammer says, I've been looking forward to this commentary all day. Thank you, sir. Schofield says, Taiwanese rather live under Japanese rule. Yeah, that's probably true, man. That's probably true. 112 says, God loves China. China is a blessed place. I hate everything says, how dare you be happy? Exactly. Like, this is the same as going up to an American celebrating the death of bin Laden. Look, I'm not saying you shouldn't have celebrated the death of bin Laden. I just think that it's probably a little bit more complicated than people think, you know, 9/11 and all that, but I'm not going to shit on them for being happy. Ironhammer Forge says, evil spellcasting. Sneeko did the same thing looking for all the Venezuelans mad at Trump, but didn't find many. Really? No way, Ironhammer. I got to see that. Sneeko did this. Let me see this. Oh, we might review that on Tuesday. That's good. That's good. What did Sneeko do?
Trump just bombed Venezuela, so this stream I'm going to detail the truth. Wait, this is just Kick Chat?
we need to go and kidnap him and bring it up because he was playing games, like Rubio said.
Yeah, thank you, Sneeko, the Haitian Filipino. Why don't you focus on Aristide? I bet you don't know enough about Aristide before you comment on this. I'm going to watch this. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Ridiculous. Thank you, Iron Hammer Forge, for that. Schofield said, was that a Venezuelan burqa? We don't have a lot of Muslims in Venezuela, sir. We've gotten some in Margarita who are mostly Lebanese in recent years. We've had Arabs, but they're mostly Palestinian Christians and Lebanese Christians. But in recent years, we've had Muslims move in, and that's why the accusations of Hezbollah funding come from there. Just somewhat. It's somewhat true, somewhat false. Efra says, this lady is trying too hard. America's actually about free. Valentina. Thank you, People's Press, for commenting, and subscribing. You're a great one, sir. Efra says, I am Team America, but F that might be true. What might be true, Efra? And 112 says, won't happen in our lives, perhaps. Taiwan? I think it might happen. I really do. They've really succeeded with the textbook propaganda that they've done. I don't know if you're aware. Dude, China sends in fake textbooks that shows Taiwan as a part of China. Kids get fucked up with it. Everything says, did you see what Bukele posted about Maduro? I did see what Bukele posted. Let's pull that up. Bukele gloating. Let's pull up Bukele gloating. That's a funny one. That was a very funny one. Let's find it. Here we go. Bukele, who I used to be a bigger fan of, but let's see what he posted here. Just the flag of Venezuela. And here he posts this video. Lower this here.
Tenga la seguridad el pueblo del Salvador que ningún mequetrefe, ningún pelele de imperialismo como el tal Bukele va a separar a los pueblos del Salvador y de Venezuela. Seguiremos unidos. Bukele, el que se mete con nosotros se seca. Te secará, Bukele. Tenga la.
And this is followed up by Maduro in the Nike Tech Fit. Oh man, Bukele's a memester. He's a memester. And Mr. Elu says, didn't the Chinese nationalists fight the communists more than the Japanese? I know they had some sort of truce, right, when the Japanese invaded with the Kuomintang, right? Let's ask ChatGPT. Let me see that. Did the Chinese nationalists fight the commies or the Japanese more? One paragraph. That's a good question. Let's check that out. The Kuomintang. Kuomintang's a bunch of drug dealers at the end of the day. Where is this? There we go. The Chinese Nationalist Party fought Imperial Japan for far more than they fought the Chinese Communist Party during the 30s and 40s. The Nationalists bore the main burden of resisting Japan in the Second Sino-Japanese War, suffering massive casualties while defending China's cities and conventional fronts, whereas the Communists focused more on guerrilla warfare and expanding influence in rural areas. Only after Japan's defeat did the Nationalists and Communists fully turn on each other again in the Chinese Civil War, which ultimately led to the Communist victory. I guess not, sir. Efra says, last question, do you think Trump will send Maduro to El Salvador? I really doubt that. If there were rumors, Efra, amongst the Venezuelan community that he was being sent to Guantanamo. But I was skeptical of that even at the start because I said Maduro is a foreign dignitary. Sure, he may be a narco trafficker, but that doesn't make you an enemy combatant, which would be, no, how is it that Guantanamo works? You're a fighter, but you're not an enemy combatant, so you don't have to be in the Geneva Conventions. If you were to send Maduro to Sacat or to Guatemala for prison, it really wouldn't make sense because this is a person that's being tried in the United States. The reason you send people to Sacat or Guantanamo is to not try them in the United States, because then they don't have to receive the full legal rights that someone would receive being in the United States. So the fact that they're even putting him on trial is makes me skeptical of that they could do that. Where they probably will send him, I'm assuming, dude, is this, Efra, ADX Florence. I don't know if you've heard of it. This is the only Supermax prison in America. It's in Colorado. It had the Unabomber, it has El Chapo. This is not where Noriega went. Noriega went to USP Miami, I think. But they hadn't built this one yet, if I'm aware. Let me see here. Noriega was, what USP was he in? Dude, come on. Prison. prosecution, imprisonment. All right, let me just Google it. Where was in prison? Let's see if it's Miami area. So it's USB Miami, right? Where was Noriega in prison? This is where Noriega was in prison. I recognize it. FCI. This is where he was, but this prison, I think, yeah, it opened in 76. ADX Florence opened in 1995. It was very new. So I really doubt that they'll send him here, but they'll probably send him here with Robert Hansen. This is what the cells are like. They're terrible. This is hell on earth. I'm a prison abolitionist myself. So it's hell on earth. This is probably where he'll go with the rest of the bad guys in Colorado. They say it's a horrific prison, especially because you drive in and you see the beautiful Rockies, and then you get imprisoned in this tiny little cell. ADX Florence, scary stuff. San Salvador, Schofield says the Chinese built this library in San Salvador. Would you believe that I was there when they were building that? And when they were building the port in Surf City? And I walked by them and I saw the Chinese and I talked to them for a little bit, but they didn't want to talk to a foreigner too much. And I think they have to be quiet. That was so cool. And that library is beautiful. It was beautiful. 112 says, what's a safe place for Americans in Venezuela in the next 3 months? I would not go, man. I would not go. I would not go. I wouldn't go. In the next 3 months. The jungle. You won't get hurt in the jungle, but I would not go. All right, everybody. Wait, hang on here. Hang on. Let's see here. The producer sent something here. Let's see what we got of Eric Adams before we get out of here. I would not go to Venezuela right now, sir. I would not go right now. Don't recommend it. Please, if you do go, stay safe, man. Tell people that you're going there. It's a beautiful place, but it's not worth doing. All right, let's see here. Oh, look at this. Look at Eric Adams, our GOAT. What did our GOAT say here? I have seen firsthand how Nicolas Maduro destroyed Venezuela firsthand and turned it into a narco state. Millions fled. Thousands landed in New York City. Now in U.S. custody, the man who helped flood our streets with fentanyl is finally being held accountable. American lives were destroyed because of him. President Donald Trump's actions hit the cartels when it hurts. Has he been to Venezuela? Is New York the Caracas of America? Is Caracas the New York of Venezuela? Firsthand. Mayor Adams, what were you doing down in Venezuela? What were you doing down in Venezuela? What? Proppy says, I'm going to address this because it's important. I think most Venezuelans won't hurt a random U.S. civilian, seeing as most of them are seemingly fine with what happened. The problem is not the civilian Venezuelans. It is the government. If you go buy a new phone, they will find any reason to imprison you to use you for a prisoner swap. This is happening in Russia as well. You got to be very careful traveling with an American passport. If you have another passport, maybe it's a little safer. But for example, whenever I travel with my Chilean passport to a country that you're not supposed to go to or a country you are supposed to go to. Oh, thank you, Schofield. Appreciate the super chat, sir. Schofield says, great show, man. Eric might still be hungover. No, but thank you, Schofield. Thank you, Schofield, Robert, and 112 for the super chats, guys. I really appreciate it. But Proppy, they will take you as a prisoner in order to trade you. And let's spend a little time here because it's early. Let me show you here. This is where you'll end up. Okay? They're going to take you. There are two major prisons in Venezuela that you should avoid like the plague. The first one is at Helicoide. This was built as a shopping mall by the dictator Marcos Pérez Jiménez, okay? And they converted it into a prison in this was a drive-through shopping mall. The idea was you would drive up these places and you do your shopping as you drove through, okay? It was a very novel concept at the time. Now it's been turned into a prison and it is full of human rights abuses literally everywhere, dude. I literally don't think we have footage of the inside anymore. Yeah, virtual realities have been made of it. This is where you will end up, okay? The worst one is called La Tumba, which is in Miami. In the Caracas. And this is a really scary prison Because if you go to this one, this is the building, okay? You will be locked up in a cell. They built this one where it has the light blasting on you all day from all corners of the room. Let me see if I think some YouTuber made a simulation of it so you can see. This is some scary shit, dude. Look at this. La tumba. See if this is it. Are they just explaining it or are they showing it? All right. Here, this is it. Look at this. This is in Spanish, so you can see it. Here's the tumba, the setup. You're buried underground. This is the first floor, the second floor, the third floor, 10 meters underground, fourth floor, and then you have the fifth floor. Okay. These are the cells. This is where they take a lot of students. Here you go. You have neon lights that are on all day. They're completely white. You have an AC and white walls. This is designed to make you schizophrenic. This is the real schizophrenia machine. This is where you end up. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. I wouldn't risk it. I wouldn't risk it. 112 says, are there any good-looking women in Venezuela? Yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely. Venezuelans are very vain people, and I don't say that negatively. We care a lot about... Venezuela is a place that was known as, you could be on the dirtiest bus in the worst neighborhood, but people are going to smell good because they put on cologne for everything and perfume. They're very vain people, a lot of plastic surgery, a lot of beautiful women. Absolutely. Proppy says, okay, yeah, you're right. Someone I hadn't thought about the remaining government. Exactly. That's the scary thing is if you get caught by these guys, you'll get in trouble. A civilian will probably rob you. If they're poor, they'll probably rob you. And as the Venezuelan thug, let me see if we have any pictures of like a malandro, bro. The Venezuelan thug, the only ones that are similar to Venezuelan criminals. I'll look up Tren de Aragua so you can see. These guys are South Africa level. They enjoy hurting people, killing people. They genuinely like it, okay? These people are scary folks. Dude, my mom was friends with these guys. She grew up with guys like this because she grew up in a poor part of Venezuela. The reason they have to hold them down like this is because these guys are fucking scary. If you ever saw the movie City of God, it's like that, but worse. These guys will kill you for fun, not even for money. They'll kill you for fun. So they're scary people. Effer says it does not look comfortable. It is not comfortable. It's not comfortable, man. People come out crazy from those prisons. See if there is anything on the helicoide. No, man, there's nothing. This will be a museum someday. These like torture rooms and all this. It's wild. What I really want to see when Venezuela opens up is there's a tower called the Tower of David in Caracas, which was a half-built tower that Chavez nationalized. And it never got finished built. And they use it. It's actually in Homeland. Have you ever seen that? You see this here? This tower, it's like on the inside. Look at that. People live in this. This is an office tower that they made into a place for people to live, and they never finished it. Look at that. People just live like that, living on the edge. Crazy shit. Wild shit. Dude, there's a lot of cool stuff in Venezuela. There's also beautiful stuff. You also have the tepuis. Look at these. Tepui. These are like plateaus, giant plateaus all over the country. Very cool. And you also get to eat. I know Americans are fans of them as animals, but you get to eat these. They're so good. They taste like fish. The meat is so good. The capybara meat. Look at this. This shit is delicious. This is delicious. They cook them in the country like this. This is called condemnation. These are delicious animals, bro. People love capybara in Venezuela. We love to eat this. It's so good. It's the best. Look. People love capybara. I see someone saying they're too cute to eat. Dude, the thing is in Venezuela, the reason that it's really in the culture is because when Venezuela was colonized, there was Venezuela, if you live inland, there's no real fish that you can eat. So during Lent, the church actually declared that capybara does not count as meat. It's actually a fish. So people would eat it on Fridays during Lent because they couldn't eat meat. So they revoked this later with the advancement of technology, obviously. But people still love to eat it. It's delicious. It tastes like fish. It's very good. Very, very good. Efra says, F that shit. Yeah. Going to there is scary. 112 says, holy shit, that's fucking evil. Dude, that's the reason a lot of Venezuelans support this, man. A lot of people know someone who's been picked up or who's gone crazy from these prisons because there's real torturing, and the torturing is not actually done by Venezuelans. It's mostly done by Cuban intelligence, who are experts at this stuff, man. Cuban intelligence is the reason Cuba is so effective, one of the main reasons, is they were actually trained by a veteran of the Spanish-American War who was Spanish that was trained in the art of espionage by the Stasi. And so that's where they started. In 1959, they got all the Stasi cool shit, all of the great spying stuff. And since then, the G2, the Cuban intelligence service, is genuinely scary, man. They're really good at what they do. Proppy says, also, I'm generally against the capture of Maduro, even if I explicitly do not like him or his governance, but I don't know how everyone else in here is feeling. I don't think it's very good. I think that it's a half measure. You have to take everyone if you're going to do it. I don't really have opinions. We just do analysis, right? But Effer says, if everything goes well, I heard Venezuela has the biggest waterfall. Looks interesting. Yes, Angel Falls. But it has another name now because Chavez named it something else. El Santo Ángel. He changed it to something else. Let me see what the name is now. But it will always be known as Angel Falls, the tallest waterfall in the world. Let's see what it's called now. It's called in Pemon. He renamed it to Coropacupay Vena. Coropacupay Vena. You know, Venezuela, unfortunately, you should visit this city if you get a chance. Oh, man, this is reminding me of my childhood. This city called Mérida is so nice, man. It's so cool. It's the only place where it snows. It's the last place where it's actually, Venezuela is the first country to have lost all of its glaciers to global warming because we had one in Mérida. This hasn't worked in years, dude. Chavez fucked this up. I went on it as a kid. You go up the mountain here and it's snow. It's so cool. A lot of fun. You could also go to the Colonia Tovar, the Tovar colony in English. It's a German town here. They have their own dialect of German. It's kind of faded out because I think these were Mennonites that moved to Venezuela hundreds of years ago, and they set up this little German town, and they kept interbreeding, and they had the highest incident of Down syndrome in like the whole world, so they were forced to stop interbreeding. But they had their own dialect of German. They're kind of like the Venezuelan Amish. And if you go there, you get really, really good German food. German Venezuelan food. Also Margarita, obviously. A beautiful place. This is a beautiful place, dude. I used to go here as a kid. This is a fucking amazing place. Look at this. Best beaches in the world. Best beaches in the world. I'm getting nostalgic. Nostalgia defeats us. Yeah, you guys really are fans of of capybaras. I'm sorry, dude. They're delicious. They taste so good. You know what else is good is we eat this shark. It's not Chinese style. We're not killing it bad. What is this called? What do we call it, man? The cazón. We eat this. It's this empanada that uses shark meat inside. Dude, this shit is delicious. This shark, you can eat this in the U.S. I highly recommend you get it. You can't eat capybara in the U.S. This is very, very good. It's this little shark that looks like this. They're not endangered or anything. Like this. This thing, it's a delicious animal. Very, very good. Very good. Marinam says, I recently heard there are 5,000 communes in Venezuela. It's like the size of Texas and full of communists. I don't doubt that, but that's probably government stuff, Marinam. But I won't speak on it because I don't know. I don't doubt that, though. They probably set up a bunch of communes that are probably mostly abandoned. There were some success with communes with Chavez, but they were getting paid with oil money, so they were being held up. A lot of the programs they did that were even cool are screwed, because there's no oil money because they mismanaged it. 112 says they know their drugs too. I bet. Tell the truth, meds. Venezuela is actually a country where my parents' generation, if you smoked weed, you were really looked down on. It's kind of changed a bit, but Venezuelans have always been very anti-drug. What they are is they're pro-whiskey. Venezuela used to be the highest whiskey importer in the whole world. Venezuelans love whiskey. They love it. And everything says, well, I shouldn't be talking about this because my grandma ate iguanas. All right, guys. Let's get out of here. Emergency stream. I got to go do something now. It's Saturday. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Appreciate the super chats from Schofield 112 and Robert, the greatest. Appreciate you guys. Consider joining the Discord. We got I Hate Everything in there now. He was sending messages about this earlier. Let me pull up the plugs real quick to end on this. Here we have the fucking, where is this? Thanks. Oh. There we go. So here we have the Discord, which is free. The link is in the description for it. We were chatting about this. This is where I sent the videos of today, where I was documenting this. I have a few more. I might send them in there later. The Patreon, I will upload the videos for the King Leo Movie Club this weekend. Hold me to it, because we're behind. And the What Would a Postmodernist Do bracelet is available for $10. Appreciate you guys. Efra says, ultimately what I get talking to Venezuelans is that Chavez actually used to hold things together and Maduro ruined it, but I don't know. Listen, we can do a whole episode. I saw someone asked earlier about why Venezuela voted for communism. Venezuela did not vote for communism. Chavez was elected as a centrist with possibly militant background. He wasn't really known as a communist. Chavez was a gravitating figure. He was a Robespierre figure for Venezuelans. And he could have done such a good job. He really could have. But he went, this is the excuse I use, which I think is true. He went a little crazy after the coup in 2002. Because the Americans sent in snipers and caused a whole bunch of problems. And it really drove him nuts. And then he fired anyone that was competent and replaced them with loyalists. And it's a huge problem. We can do a whole Venezuela history episode, but most people don't care about it. But maybe we can do that for members or something. I think Afro would like that. Maybe. 112 says, I mean Cuba, RE Drugs, good show. Cuba is one of the most anti-drug countries in the world, my friend. We can't get into it. I love Latin American history, so I go fucking spurg out on this stuff. But if you look up General Ochoa, he was executed because he was accused of trafficking drugs. It was probably Fidel covering his ass because Fidel was trafficking drugs. But Ochoa was a... Cuba, you can find drugs, obviously, but if they find you with them, you get in trouble. What they do have is cannabis. They have a lot of cannabis. They grow a lot of cannabis in the eastern part of Cuba, actually, illegally. But if you want to get drugs in Cuba, you have to go to the Keys in the north side of Cuba, from what I understand. They have anything you want, cocaine or whatever. That's where the Venezuelan elites party, actually, the Bolivarian elites. So the Comandante is out. I got to go smoke this Maduro cigar. Here we go, Pan V. This was our war stream. This was our emergency stream. Everyone stay safe out there. I hate everything. Since you're in New York, dude, if you get a peek of Maduro, please send it to Discord. I appreciate you. Appreciate you, Mr. Ilu. 112 says life is for people who are bad at drugs. Absolutely, Mr. Ilu. Maragriam, Iron Hammer Forge, Schofield. I hate everything. People's Press. Well, we had a lot of people here. Robert, obviously. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Pajarito Lindo. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you're new here. Subscribing is free. Liking is free. Do all the good stuff. And I will see you on Tuesday.
Change the world. My final message. Goodbye. Change the world. My final message. Goodbye. Change the world.